testing one. There we are. We are live. Welcome in. Welcome in. The BETSTAMP pod is here on an NBA Tuesday night. The Spurs versus the Thunder. Round 4 is on in the background. You know we have to keep an eye on it. We're NBA journalists, so we'll follow along. We've got a couple other NBA games to try to keep an eye on in the background as well too. And trade season is heating up. You know, it is a fun time in the NBA season to hit the trade machine and the rumor mill and see what's going on there and cook up some fun stuff, that's for sure. But we have some NFL news, I guess some continued NFL news, because we had, of course, the rush of coaching moves that happened after the regular season is over for a lot of those teams. But hey, yo, Pittsburgh, I guess they had to wait one more game because, you know, their season's over now. So shout out. I mean, it was an epic run for Tomlin, and also in their division as well too. Of course, we saw, you know, with their regular season ending, Harbaugh going for the Ravens. So, you know, an end of an era in the NFC North. You know, if only we had known, maybe we could have gotten Marv Lewis back for one more year for the Bengals. And just like an honorary season of all three of those guys coaching together could have been a fun one last ride. That's like Fast and the Furious 7 is Marv Lewis and John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. I don't know. Maybe we're going to the ChatGPT early to cook up that storyline. I don't know. Are we like the Stranger? We are like the Stranger Things writers over here. I'm seeing some posts about like, oh, the Stranger Things writers accused of using ChatGPT. I almost like, it's like, okay, I guess I wasn't necessarily thinking, and I haven't even seen it yet. So maybe based on the reviews, you know, it makes sense. But also, you know, who's not these days? This whole intro, I'm reading off a ChatGPT teleprompter in the background. Maybe I'm ChatGPT. It is what it is. Who knows? But hey, yo, speaking of cooking up movie storylines, are Marv Lewis, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh. I guess that could be like a going out in style type of literally as well too. Not another movie that we haven't seen, but they have made it a couple times. So if we're remaking a third time, why not? Remington Productions, it is what it is. We'll take it. Pause with if we can get that starring cast. I don't know if Cleveland Stefanski did have, you know, and I guess so the NFC North. Who would have thought AFC North? Sorry, who would have thought Zach Taylor would have been the only coach standing at the end of the year? Do we have to Google search the name? I think maybe not. You know, the first time. Okay, yeah, so I guess, you know, first time predicted, I guess, you know, would be the first time that they fired him. They haven't done that yet. It is what it is. Oh, testing 1, 2, 3. Are we back? Reconnecting? Hey, it says that we're good to go, but it says reconnecting. So I guess we'll see what happens in a second. IT, go outside and see who's messing with the wires. It is what it is. Okay, there we go. Hopefully they're not here, chat. Hey, yo, they're messing with the internet. It is what it is. But yeah, I guess it said as of January 5th. So that was I guess they didn't know Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh and Kevin Stefanski were going to be available. But their Bengals keeping Coach Zach Taylor, top executive Duke Tobin as well. Yeah, shout out Duke Tobin. Hey, yo. Bengals missed the playoffs for the third straight season. Hey, yo. So Taylor, you know, the one guy that consistently has, I mean, he's been in the Super Bowl, I guess, the most recently of the three. It is carrying a lot of weight, you would imagine, at this point. It's unclear how long, reading from the article, it says it's unclear how long Taylor has on his current deal. The team had previously announced Taylor was under contract through 2026. Taylor is the third longest tenured coach in franchise history, tailing his predecessor. Speaking of Marvin Lewis, he's back. 256 games in Sam Weich, 227 games. I'm guessing that it's going back to that 80s run with Boomer Esiason, Ken Anderson, maybe in that time period. But I guess speaking of, you know, the, you know, 10 years as well too, and Tomlin with his exit, it is crazy that they were saying that Pittsburgh is only, this is going to be, I guess, and we're going to have to double check how they were saying this as well too. I just kept seeing this graphic on the ESPN. It is what it is. But you know, they kept saying that. we'll get there, chat. They said that they had 3 coaches, I think, since 1970. But I guess I couldn't remember if they were phrasing it. They were hiring their 4th, or Tomlin was the 4th since 1970. Either way, again, obviously impressive run of consistency there. So yeah, they bring in Noel in 69, and then yeah, so it's been the 3 Hey, yo, well, I guess double check an article as well here too. I saw something that said that he might not coach again in 2026, I guess, or not expected to coach. Again, obviously with contracts, buyouts, he might be fine just surveying the landscape for a year and see what's going on in 27. Because you imagine that, he'd still be a pretty coveted hire a year from now if he was to personally decide to take a year off. But if he was to decide, of course, that he was going to immediately try to get a job again, too, you would assume that he would be near the top name. And again, we could battle any of the we could compare any of the AFC North guys that that are on the market now for a top head coach. And I guess is LaFleur officially available now as well too? Because we did see some graphics about that on the ESPN walking around the restaurant as well too. Packers have reportedly made their decision. Matt LaFleur reacts to Aaron Rodgers' comments. Matt LaFleur left speechless by Aaron Rodgers' comments. It is what it is. Maybe we need to. what year is that from? Do we need to double check that? I don't know. But let's see here. We can confirm the job security with Sports Illustrated, I guess. What are they saying? Reportedly about decisions moving forward. They're being vague. They're going to make us read. It is what it is. We'll have to figure it out, I guess. ChatGPT, teach us how to read. However, it sounds like the Packers, they plan to keep LaFleur. Shout out. So the organization intends to work out, because that's what I was seeing on the graphic. It said the organization was intending to work out a deal. So there's a chance LaFleur could be fired or head into 2026 season on his final year with the Packers. So the deal is it's like a you win this year or else type of situation. What's the deal? That sounds kind of crazy. I mean, that seems like that's just kind of the deal. I thought that was just the arrangement in the NFL that you had. Like, we're bringing you in. I guess not, you could get a Sam Hinkie situation. Maybe you need to take a couple of years, strategize in terms of the draft. But for the most part, and especially the head coach, you're bringing him in. You're like, we're going to try to win football games, or we're probably going to pick up on graphics that are there and read closed captionings. But they're saying that they're working out deals with LaFleur, and then Tomlin's going to be available. So we're trying to connect the dots and say that, is Tomlin a good fit for the Packers? I know that, maybe do you continue to think like, Jordan Love, obviously if you have the quarterback, you're thinking you want the quarterback coach in there. But the change of the change of style in the coaching is always a thing that we see the teams gravitate toward when they have to make a new hire. And just his general experience as well too could be really good for the team. And he does seem like a guy in that sort of college coaching type of way where he would be, let's say that, the NFL big market thing is a little bit different, but he does seem like a big market type of head coach where I guess the Giants as well too are a job that are available. And speaking of, I was seeing Harbaugh attached to that a little bit in some of the articles as well too. And I guess they're probably gonna, guys are gonna interview everywhere. But yeah, I was thinking that with that team and the quarterback stability that they could potentially have, with Love there as well too, that we were, projecting that would be there, would be an upgrade, I would think, for Tomlin as well too. It would be a good change of pace, the type of team for him to take over. I saw comments about the do we see Common make comments? I don't know, but we saw comments from the Ravens owner about, would it be fun to hire Tomlin as well too? And that was the second thing that I immediately thought was, speaking of, I gotta know why we're comparing this all to the college head coaching searches, but I was thinking, does he do like the Nick Saban type of deal where he goes, LSU to Alabama and just immediately coaches the, goes from the one rival to the other? I guess maybe he had that Dolphins run in between the two. So maybe it would be Tomlin going to coach. Maybe Tomlin to Bama, chat. Hey yo, Mike Tomlin to Alabama. I'm not trying to like, we were demoting Mike Tomlin over to college or anything like that. We could check the salaries. I think the Bama guys are doing okay. And if you're gonna say, what college jobs would NFL guys potentially just want to have, which would be great, just great football jobs in a sense, and great legacy jobs, like the Alabama one is as well. Is definitely, if not one of the two or three, it's definitely one for sure. But, I guess we'll see if his if his name gets to that search at all as well too. If, like we're saying, he is going to be a candidate for the 2026 cycle as well. But yeah, those were the two names that immediately I thought of for him to potentially go to, because, and I guess, again, for the big market sense for the Ravens, but that can tend to, or, I don't know, is Doc Rivers a fair comparison for Tomlin? I don't know. It's been a minute since they've won the rings and some of the playoff successes, but it's still, and this is what I was, saying earlier as well too, about where the kind of the tolerance being built up and the expectations, because in some ways it does feel like Tomlin's teams have overachieved as well too recently. I mean, make no mistake, it's been quite a few seasons of like some pretty average teams, barely getting to that 500 record, and that'll be something that'll be a good reset for the franchise as well too, for just like, I don't know if you need to move on from Tomlin to be like, okay, now we can have a bad year, but now you can maybe go get the bad record and go in the draft and get the quarterback, because they have been a team as well too that haven't necessarily, again, speaking of the 500 record, I mean, obviously they haven't necessarily had that major tanking season, but they haven't really had a quarterback since Roethlisberger was starting to tail off from his prime there, in terms of that consistent franchise guy. But they haven't been a team that is like I guess, what were they? We'll check to see here. What was their record when they went down and got Roethlisberger that year? Because I guess that was kind of high in the draft. 6-10 the year before. So wait, what pick exactly did he go? Because of course you had Manning and Rivers near the top of the class, and then we know how the draft goes. You get into the immediate need for the quarterback as well too. Maybe you go a little bit. 6-10 could be what, like the 11th pick in the draft, I guess. Here, once it loads, we'll be able to see the reveal. 11th pick, yeah. So right in that range seems about right. So I guess, hey, we're reading it there, but yeah. So again, they didn't have like that major tanking season, and were able to bounce back and get the quarterback. And I guess before that, they didn't really have like, I guess, no disrespect to the other franchise, to the other quarterbacks they had, because they were having successful playoff runs, and they were in a Super Bowl as well too, with O'Donnell as the quarterback. Yeah, they lose to the Cowboys. That they were obviously taking over the 90s. It is what it is. So that's about all you remember from the NFL in the 90s. And I know the Bills losing 4 Super Bowls is not ideal, but it is. Again, what do you remember? Them losing 4 Super Bowls, but you remember the Bills team. You remember that Bills team being pretty good. That is for sure. They're definitely the second defining team of the 90s, if that means anything. Hey, second team of the 90s, second place all the time. I don't know. But yeah. So, I think in a sense, and again, it's not that you necessarily absolutely need to have the tanking season, because again, like, they were able to get a guy that could be their quarterback for 10, 15 years at the peak of his powers at the 11th pick. And the Patriots were almost able to do it as well too with Mac Jones. Like, they got him, and they didn't have necessarily like, they had some down seasons for being a Super Bowl contender, but they didn't necessarily completely bottom out and become like a 3-win, disaster team. It was like, okay, we would, again, in theory, looking back, you'd be like, Belichick's still the coach, we're retooling, we have a little bit of a down year where we're able to be in like the lottery situation. What was Mac Jones was the 15th pick in that draft. And, it seemed like for a season or two there, it could potentially work out. But then, they eventually as well, too, had to have the season where they went down and got the guy. Pause. And that was the main thing, I think, in the last decade that kind of obviously stood between, or is we'll say, the what if in the Tomlin case is obviously the quarterback successes of the team. Because, again, the defenses a lot of the times were really competitive. It felt like, again, when you have Tomlin there is a level of expectation that the team is going to be, for the most part, prepared. And I guess we could go back and check penalties and stuff, but again, even this year, like, there were times when the defense, was giving up more points than it should. That's for sure. 387 is, I guess, in 2021 they gave up 389 or 398. They were 9-7-1 that year. But again, if he were to go to a team like, is Cleveland in the AFC North another obvious example? I don't know, Atlanta, maybe we double check the jobs, or even New York as well too. John Harbaugh as well too with the Rams. I don't know if, do we check John Harbaugh's 500 record? I don't know if he's got the same thing going on there with Tomlin, that same sort of, just default thing you can go to. But if you go to New York and now all of a sudden you have a couple of 10, 11 win seasons, and in the NFC East, that might not be bad as well too against some of those teams, but that would be, obviously a major turnaround and something that you would really, really hope to have there in New York, is to be back as like a contending type of, playoff team. And in playoff games, playing competitive football again, Jackson Dart getting everything in the right direction there, with setting up the franchise in the right way. And I get that. And you do look at, again, like the playoff run as well too over the last 10 years. And I think that, again, I understand the need for the switch up from both sides. Like, they are kind of just held hostage by being in this, like, mediocre situation for both teams. But for like we're saying, there is that major what if with the quarterbacks there. Like, it's, again, you're just seeing the names for the last like 7 years. I know you have Roethlisberger for a couple there, but we obviously know that, again, the production was a little bit, and then Kenny Pickett. I mean, again, with all due respect to Kenny Pickett, like Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Russell Wilson, again, like, I'm not saying that things weren't, pause, like things were definitely stale in Pittsburgh. So I get it. But that is crazy. Like, even this year, if you could get, I know that we're, once again, checking the tankathon, but I think, you see names like Ty Simpson, or maybe somebody could be potentially in that range as well too. And again, because of the 500s, they always, because of that winning record, it seems like they're always just the last couple of picks right outside of taking a quarterback. But yeah, that's where they've got tankathon's got Simpson mocked to Pittsburgh right now. So, and we don't, we'd have to go through the YouTube again and see how we feel about that. If that's just that drafting for need, or is Simpson a guy that you really think could be a guy that, could take over the franchise? Again, with them in that 20s kind of pick range, speaking of Kenny Pickett, that's obviously what we saw there a little bit. And not to say that, obviously there was a consensus that Kenny Pickett could be, I think, a starting NFL quarterback, but we saw the rest of the NFL's consensus on the rest of that quarterback class as well too. And again, who's to say, ultimately where Pickett would have gone if the Steelers didn't take him as well. And, again, not to be disrespectful, but hey, defend our guy Tomlin here. Like, Pickett's been a third string quarterback in the NFL. It is what it is. Like, I'm sure, he was in Philly and Tanner McKee, and maybe Tanner McKee's like the 28th best quarterback in the league. Who knows? Is Tanner McKee better than Jalen Hurts? Sometimes Eagles fans think so, but in the Raiders, maybe they just brought him in as the backup as well too. But even in Cleveland this offseason, like, was he in Cleveland to start this offseason? He was in Cleveland at some point, but even there, and Shador, he defend our guys, Shador, like, he was getting some starting reps this year, looking okay. So looking better than Kenny Pickett. Again, shout out Kenny Pickett. But I mean, that was his quarterback for 3 seasons, his top passer for 2 seasons, I guess. And then, again, Mason Rudolph, his top passer in 2029, who is a good backup. Like, you love to have Mason Rudolph on the roster. He can steady the offense when he has to go into the game. But if he's your starter, the fact that they've been 500 is obviously impressive. So again, is there that, just that sort of do I want to call it a fantasy? But is it that sort of sports fantasy of these pairings just being eternal in a way, where, from the player's side, but from the coach's side as well too, where, I guess, I don't know, from NFL fans, if that Tomlin's going to lose in the first round every year, maybe you like it if you're another team, stay over and, I guess maybe if he changes a team, who knows if that result will change as well too. But, for the most part, like, it would be nice, again, to just be like, hey, can they just continue to ride out into the sun, even if things haven't continued to, like, totally bad there? Great grammar. But again, the change of scenery, I think, is definitely needed for both of them. And I think he can find himself in a team that is going to be some win now type of stuff. I guess that when we were going to make the Doc Rivers comparison earlier, that would be because Doc Rivers, I think he only wants to coach like experienced contending teams right now. And he doesn't want to necessarily, not tank, but yeah, he doesn't want to tank for sure. But definitely doesn't want to be in like a potential rebuilding situation where, maybe San Antonio was a little different this year because of the upside of some of the players. But again, that's a little, you're looking at that going, what could it be? It's still a young team. There still is the potential that maybe it's in like the 40-some win range. And I guess, Doc Rivers, I guess he could be winning 40 games either way. But, I guess just veteran guys, it is what it is. But like Arizona, Arizona, Tomlin to Arizona right away seems like, it doesn't seem like a match made in heaven, that's for sure. Or Tennessee as well. I mean, it's going to be one of the, I don't know if it would have to be one of the teams that we that we don't like, but Miami, I guess, yeah, Arizona, I would say Cleveland as well too, even though the NFC North familiarity, maybe the other owners, those owners themselves would be more aggressive to getting the other NFC North coaches. I'm not sure, but I would say Arizona, Cleveland. Vegas is a flashy team a little bit, so there is that. He could be the Vegas head coach, and what if that works out? And I guess getting Mendoza as a rookie, Mendoza, Mike Tomlin, Ashton Ginty, and Brock Bowers. I don't know. Miami as well too. I mean, Miami could be fun, but I think and Pittsburgh, I don't know. Tomlin and Pittsburgh, this does still seem like, I don't know, a good pairing. But yeah, so it is, and I guess like we're saying, what was the team? Green Bay. Green Bay's not officially available at this time. So maybe if they can they make a trade? I guess Tomlin already stepped down, so I guess maybe not at this point, but. If it's just an announced move and not totally official, maybe they can call around about some stuff. But that'd be an interesting trade, LaFleur for Tomlin. I think if you're the Packers, you're thinking you're probably going to get the coaching upgrade there. If you're Pittsburgh, are you thinking LaFleur is like after this playoff run? After this season, are you thinking LaFleur is going to be there for the next decade? I don't know, but at least you get a guy, and then you say, do you want to be offensive coordinator when we hire another coach? I don't know. But, at least you get a couple assets back. You get LaFleur. Maybe you turn around and trade LaFleur to somebody. I don't know. But Vegas could be interesting as well, too. Again, big market team. I'm not saying, I could see Brady talking Tomlin into going there. But there is something about Tomlin in a Vegas visor that does seem like I'm trying to picture like the Bleacher Report graphic of this, Tomlin gets hired and they announced that they got the jersey swap all ready to go. I could see him in the Vegas fit. I guess maybe the Miami fit a little bit. Just with where that roster is going to be, they're a little uncertain at quarterback. I don't, it's not to say that, we haven't been building up Quinn Ewers a little bit as a potential guy to, hey, do you want to see what you have there? But again, I think that Tomlin, we want to see him contend. And it is a little bit of a shame as well, too, that, he didn't win Coach of the Year in Pittsburgh, just having teams that, again, you would just look at like, how is this team getting to 500? And, they're still managing to win some games. I know it becomes debating about what the record could be a little bit, but 13-3 in 2017, he couldn't win Coach of the Year that year. I don't know. But Super Bowl, his second season, early from taking over for Cowher, that's for sure. So there is some of that what if from the other coach, because I think we mentioned this on the last live stream as well too. But Dungy in Tampa, he leaves, and then I think immediately the next year, or not more than 2 years, but I want to say like immediately the next year they're able to win the Super Bowl with Gruden. So it's like, oh, is it Tony Dungy's roster? Like Steve Kerr, Mark Jackson, obviously another example as well too. But, again, Cowher in this case won the Super Bowl, and then Tomlin again with some of those similar pieces. And then, a little bit of a competitive, just being on a different tier there for a while. And yes, the regular seasons were good there with that Brown-Bell combo on offense where they were 11 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins, and then like we're saying, 13 wins in 2017. But 16 was the last time they won a playoff game. So 7, again, 0-7 in the last, obviously 7 playoff games is, starting to push it just from a blind resume standpoint where you're like, okay, any coach, you lose 7 playoff games in a row. That's going to be, and that has to be over the course of 7 years. You can't lose multiple playoff games in a row. So, if Tomlin had lost 7 playoff games in 2 seasons, then maybe, yes, it is. I don't know if that's even more disastrous. I'm not sure what scenario that is. But I guess it could be like a series, if it was the NBA or something like that. But yeah, obviously, would take 7 years to build up that resume in the NFL. So again, like we're saying, understandable, but yeah, I think with the fact that they were able to get that, it did seem like that Ravens Steelers game was an either or game and not necessarily that both coaches were going to be gone at the end of it. But I guess maybe going into that game, by the time we got to the end of that game, it was a little bit like, hey, maybe, again, Tomlin's probably a little fortunate that he won this one. But yeah, obviously, at the end of the day, maybe it's a little bit more in the phrasing of, and I think with Tomlin being there nearly 20 years, and again, insane, just, constant winning for this team, like there is going to be a respect with how the, with how the partnership is going to change there. Because again, I think that's really what, like, I get that there is that type of phrasing again for respecting the careers of some of these coaches, but I think in that case, like that's literally what this is in my mind, and maybe we should actually go over and see what is being said about him not coaching in 2026 as well too. But yeah, again, you're like both sides have grown a little stale, like we're saying. Ayo, there is that sort of the hostage of the expectation, so the change up would seem necessary. Steelers announced Tomlin's decision on Tuesday afternoon, saying his track record will never be duplicated. They're not going to let it happen, chat. We'll make a move before we let a guy lose 7 playoff games in a row. I'm not sure, but Tomlin said in a statement that he decided to step down after much thought and reflection. Shout out. This organization has been a huge part of life for many years. I mean, and I almost wanted to see him get one more year just to get to the 20 years as well, too. 2 decades, nice round number there. Would have been a fun tenure for Pittsburgh fans. But again, I guess, it is what it is. It's a cold world out there. I also want to thank Steelers Nation, passion, loyalty, high expectations. Represent what make the franchise truly special. He loves those high expectations so much that he shouted them out in his outro, chat. It is what it is. Passion, loyalty, and high expectations. I guess, again, it's not the Philadelphia Steelers, but, there is a little bit of crossover there. It is what it is. It's all Pennsylvania, I guess. Tomlin, who had 2 years remaining on his contract to form the Steelers. Oh, so he did walk away as well, too. See, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's time to go. It's time to go. It is what it is. During our team meeting today, Coach Tomlin informed me that he has decided to step down. Head coach Art Rooney said in a statement, obviously, I am extremely grateful to Mike for all of his hard work and dedication we have shared over the last 19 years. Tomlin leads Pittsburgh with an unprecedented accomplishment of never having a losing season in nearly 2 decades at the helm of the franchise. He clinched his 200th victory, NFL victory in Week 16 against the Lions, and tied Chuck Noll for 9th with 193 regular season wins in a Week 18 regular season win against the Ravens that clinched the AFC North title. They will begin their search for the 4th head coach since 1969. Like we were saying, shout out to his list of accomplishments. That was sure. Tomlin's team went 8-12 in postseason play. Shout out the Chiefs. The last time that they were able to get a win. I'm sure Sam remembers that very fondly. Tomlin's final game in Pittsburgh ended with a chorus of boos. Oh, no, you hate to see it. We'll wipe it from the record. When you don't get it done, words are cheap. At his post-game conference, Monday night, Tomlin, they don't call him Mike here, Tomlin offered little assurance that he would return to the Steelers. He's done. It is what it is. Mike T had more success than anybody in the league the last 19 years, Rodgers said, giving him a lot of credit. I don't know if he said that about LaFleur, apparently reacting to some of those headlines that we were seeing earlier. It is what it is. Cameron Hayward, not a fan. Obviously, one of the star players there. I'm assuming they would like that to continue. But the fire Tomlin chance, I mean, again, I don't know if there's, if we could say too much about Pennsylvania sports fans, but I mean, fire Tomlin again. Can you maybe chanting part ways with Tomlin is not necessarily like, I don't know how you can get that going in the stadium, but mutually agree to part ways with Tomlin. Mutually agree to part ways with Tomlin. I think you can get there, chat. You can get there. There is a cadence. I think maybe you get a good DJ with some I guess, does he have to beatbox over the stadium mic? I'm not sure, but there is something there. Boos drowned out Steelers anthem Renegade by Styx. Hey, yo, chat. This shows you how much in our lane for our music we are. It that we don't even know what this group is. This has got to be some, and this is just me. I guess I'm gonna say me being a young guy. I'm assuming this is an old group. It is what it is. Okay, looking at their Spotify, there is a bit of a Vegas residency to this vibe here. Okay, there's some albums from '77. What's this song? Renegade. How many streams on Spotify? Oh, okay. 257 on Spotify. So this song might be specific to Steelers fans. Do we have the speaker on right now? Oh, we don't. I guess. Can I let me just play it real quick and see. What's the Steelers anthem? Hey, yo, are we not a good NFL fan? We don't know the Steelers anthem? Am I going to get copyrighted? Let me mute real quick. Oh, Steelers fans are having a good time. That's a lot of fun. Shout out to Sticks. So, I'm assuming I'm saying it right, but so 257 million. I'm not complaining over here. I wouldn't be complaining if I was the group. That's for sure. I'm just saying the odds, percentage wise, that maybe it would have hit our algorithm regardless of, again, the genre. Obviously, that could be increased. It is what it is. But shout out, I guess, does it say this band is from Pittsburgh or something? I don't know. Their collaboration with Cleveland's Contemporary Youth Orchestra. Hey, yo, collaborating with other AFC North bands. I don't know if that seems right, but James Young, I guess. Hey, yo, why are we calling him Jimmy? I don't know, but James Young. Hey, Jimmy. Tommy Shaw, Chuck Panozzo. I don't know if we're saying that right, but just shout out to the group Sticks. I guess the official band of the the Philadelphia Steelers. Shout out the official band of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is what it is. So, do we have to look up NFL anthems? Steelers anthem Renegade. So is it their anthem, or is it just a song that they play a lot at the stadium? I guess that is a song that would become an anthem. But every stadium's gonna have its hits of the closest stadium in Iowa is going to be the Hawkeye Stadium, or I guess, Cyclone Stadium as well, too. But this side of the state, it is going to be the Hawkeye Stadium. So, an Iowa game is going to have its songs that it's going to play at an Iowa game. Again, they're going to be hits, obviously. They're going to be songs that you hear. But, there's still going to be some songs specifically tuned, I guess, to, whatever the DJ over there is playing. Hey, yo, it is what it is. I guess, like Michigan's got Mr. Brightside is fun. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to sing. It's fun when you're in the games. It's fun when you're up, when you're winning going into the fourth quarter. That's for sure. I don't know if we'd go back and redraft anthems anthems for NFL Stadium if Mr. Brightside would be our number one pick. But, it's not bad. You'll definitely take it. Pause. It is what it is. But, yeah, apparently the boos were so bad, chat, that they drowned out the song. Renegade by the Sticks. Steelers rebounded. Wait, what week was this? Second half this was in the Bills game. Rebounded from a week 13 loss against the Bills with 3 consecutive wins. Ravens, Dolphins, Lions. An unconventional hire when he took over the head coaching position in 2007 following a 1-year stint as a defensive coordinator from the Minnesota Vikings. And again, only a short tenure, but again, he was coaching the Steelers for basically 20 seasons. So that's like our entire almost our entire football fandom life, essentially. I don't really have a memory of him not coaching the Steelers. I'm sure I could really, think hard about some Bill Cowher sideline moments or something. I'm not sure. But for the most part, again, Tomlin has been the one Steelers head coach for the entire time that we've been locked in making memories when it comes to the, when it pertains to the NFL. Hey, yo, known for his hard-hitting defenses and continuing Steelers' organizational tradition of dominant run games. That was back when he got hired. Tomlin struggled to find consistency at the quarterbacks of Rosberg, Kenny Pickett, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I guess it doesn't necessarily specify why he would not coach in 2026. I mean, again, I'm sure that there's not necessarily like immediate financial incentive for him to start coaching. And, it's not like for him, again, at his age, respectfully, Tomlin, like, he can take a year off as well, too. Like, if he wants to, I'm saying. if that's his choice, he is in a great place to, after a 20-year run. And again, maybe not the most fun like last decade, not necessarily. And as much as they were winning seasons, again, the expectations, like there was just the ultimate sort of, cap and maybe not the most enjoyable, just week to week process of the, again, it was the expectation, I guess, in the building. I don't know if, what was going on there. It doesn't seem like, again, was it the worst? That doesn't seem like it was the case. Was it maybe always, the top 5 cleanest, most run organization in the league at a given time? Like, I don't know if we go back and check the rankings there, but, again, Tomlin's still going to get you to the winning season. So, that there is still that locked inness that you're going to have, even when the teams, are kind of messing around. And, the star players on defense are going to help you there as well, too. But yeah, maybe if he's waiting that year, maybe that's what the deal is. Maybe that LaFleur deal we were talking about earlier is just that. They're like, hey, if you don't win this season, we're bringing in Mike Tomlin. We're writing it in the contract. I don't know how specific you're allowed to be, but you might as well at this point. If you could just sign, if you could have, if Tomlin's like, hey, I'll sign can this work? Can you even sign this type of deal? Can you get like Tomlin's, can you get his head coach rights? And then if he wants to, we'll sign him if he wants to return to the head coach, but then we already have a head coach. Again, I don't know what the technicalities are. Do you have to have an interim? Does LaFleur have to technically now be the interim head coach for the Packers until they fire him and Tomlin would take over? I'm not sure. And then Tomlin just gets, Tomlin gets to coach a season while his interim coach, Matt LaFleur, has his last year on his contract. Could be a good scenario for him. Could be a good setup. But, I think him in Baltimore, as much as that team is, of course, like we're saying, with Lamar ready to contend, if they're able to, you have that type of quarterback, there is still that expectation that you can still be there. And, Jordan Love can hover in that mix, as well, too. But I kind of like the contrast of his experience on a little bit of a younger team as well, too. And, again, star-studded team. Obviously, you're going to bring Parsons back at some point. So, the personalities or whatever, it's not like he's just, the main top new centerpiece guy. Not to say, disrespectfully, but it's like he can take all of these, in maybe like a Steve Kerr type way. And then, Steve Kerr was the first-time head coach as well, too. Not necessarily like the experienced veteran that they were bringing in to turn the career around. Who was the Pistons head coach? Larry Brown? Tomlin, we're comparing him to Doc Rivers and Larry Brown. I don't know if these are Hall of Famers, right? If Doc Rivers Hall of Famer, are we locking it in the NBA? I think so. And I guess does that beg the question, is Tomlin a Hall of Famer? Do we have to look up the Tomlin Hall of Fame percentage here real quick? I don't know if they have it for head coaches. But again, he does have the Super Bowl on his resume, and I know we did the Gruden comparison earlier, but again, he coached 20 years. Like Gruden, he might have got there eventually, but took him a couple. I guess the Raiders signed him to a 20-year contract, so he didn't quite coach the entire thing out at this point. Is Gruden still under contract for the Raiders, or was that far enough away at this point that maybe that has finally run its course? But for him to have the nearly 200 regular season wins and, like we're saying, hit that championship level is getting close. I guess Gruden, because of the break in his coaching tenure, it says he's coached from 95 to 2021, but obviously again there is a large portion of the coaching years in there. Would it say in the booth? It says did not coach in the ESPN booth. We'll see, of course, once it loads here. If yes, we'll try it on this one. Pause and see if it loads faster. It might. Here we go. John Gruden, coaching resume, Tampa Raiders. I think it's just those two, and then Raiders again a couple times. But I don't think there's another team in there. Vegas, Oakland. 15 years in total, 117 and 112. So, Joe Namath got in the Hall of Fame with a 500 record in the Super Bowl. It is possible. But I think Tomlin was a little bit better than that. So wait, Gruden's at 51%. Again, Gruden not in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know, is that the bar? The the non-Hall of Famer John Gruden. Shout out. Hey, yo. I know that's probably not gonna read well if he hears that, but IT can edit it out maybe beforehand. So he's at 62%. Yeah, 193 and 114, and 2 ties as well. Twice he won the AFC Championship. So Gruden, I guess, got to 1, or did he get to 2? Did he get to 1 with the Raiders as well? Was he the Raiders coach and the Tampa coach? Maybe Gruden's better than we thought. Hey, yo, that guy actually knew how to coach, Chad. Shout out. But how many division titles? Can we start counting division titles for the Hall of Fame case? Is that there? And then I guess VMI. Hey, yo, FCS wide receivers coach, Memphis, Arkansas State for 2 years, Cincinnati for 2 years, Tampa Bay. Speaking of, was he on Gruden's staff? Hey, yo, pause. In Tampa Bay 2001, was this the year that they won the Super Bowl? Was it the year before? I think this was the year, because the Ravens maybe won the year before. Or was it the next year? Did they win? In between the Patriots over here. Pause. They got 12-4 in 2002. Got the win over the Raiders, because that would have been Gruden facing his former team as well. So, this would have been Tomlin, defensive back. Raheem Morris, defensive quality coach. Rob Martinelli. Rich Bisaccia. Chad, this is stacked. You got you got Rich Bisaccia. Hey, we'll not try to say it. I guess we're gonna stumble to something bad. We got Bisaccia, Raheem Morris, and Tomlin on the staff over here. No wonder they won the Super Bowl. Monty Kiffin as the defensive coordinator, with Gruden taking everybody. Pause. Hey, yo, we got Gruden as the head coach. It is what it is. But yeah, shout out. Hey, obviously legendary run for Tomlin in Pittsburgh. One of the mainstay, do you say Godfather type head coaches in the NFL? One of the, I guess what's another? Hey, yo, there's got to be like another comic book council, not even comic book. What's like a council situation in movies? It is what it is. I guess that does go a little bit more into like a sci-fi situation. There's not like a lot of heist movies where like there's like a council situation. Inside Man, you do have some sketchy bank operators. You do have, is that Christopher Plummer? I sometimes get the names for, it's not Ian McKellen. I don't think it's Patrick Stewart. It's definitely Christopher Plummer. But you got him, kind of, I could say kind of shady background. But, you have him obviously with the evil past, ayo. But for the most part, I think it's just, you go in, you take the money, the bank's money. It's just the man exists, and then you take the money, and that's the movie essentially. It is what it is. Even the Dark Knight like doesn't really have like it's not like Nolan starts getting into like, I guess he does have Raj Al Ghul in those movies, and Bane in a way is there's the Raj Al Ghul sort of angle there in Dark Knight Rises. So maybe what's the name of that? League of Assassins. So I don't remember how we got there. Is Tomlin like a Raj Al Ghul? Is he like a high member of the League of Assassins of head coach? I guess maybe not quite as much of an assassin, the last couple of years. We got him, chat. It is what it is. But for the most part, he is like a Raj Al Ghul. He would have been, I guess, the longest tenured guy, after Belichick as well. So I don't know who that would be now, because John Harbaugh would have been the other one that I would have immediately thought of, and obviously he's not there. Stefanski was there for a while as well. No, not Sirianni. Pete Carroll, not anymore. I guess nobody is jumping off the page as somebody who's been around for. I guess Shanahan. I guess Shanahan and McVay in the NFC West would be the other ones. Campbell maybe is getting up there at this point. But yeah, and I guess Zach Taylor as well too. And Sean McDermott. So is Sean McDermott is he the veteran head coach in the league at this point? That is an interesting status marker that I didn't necessarily think about. Let's see here. Because again, that probably would have been Belichick for a while. Unless there was another sneaky one there for a minute and however he overlapped with like Cower and stuff, again, depending on the time. But for the most part, it would have been our guy. So yeah, 2017. Do we have a list of like the active head coaches? I guess we got, I'm sure that's on Wikipedia as well. We could go and see what the farthest away hire date is and see who's been there the longest at this point. Hey, yo, is it gonna be Zach Taylor or McDermott? Probably, like we said. Oh, wait, I'm forgetting about our guy Andy Reid. Hey, yo, sorry for the Chiefs. Just the dynasty is over and they've been completely written off. It is what it is. Obviously, Andy Reid is the Godfather head coach in the NFL. Hey, yo, that did not take long, Chad. It took one season. It took a half a season. And the Chiefs have been forgotten about. Once Mahomes is off the table, then, hey, yo, it is what it is. So, yeah, McDermott, 2017. McVay, 17. Shanahan, 17. Zach Taylor, 2019. LaFleur, 2019. And then Dan Campbell and Sirianni, 2021. When we start getting into this decade. But, yeah, McVay is still going to be the youngest head coach in the league when he's the longest tenured head coach in the league. I don't know how that's going to work, essentially. Wait, how old is McVay? Hey, yo, respectfully, 39. So if Andy Reid steps down next year in McDermott, I guess we don't need to, like, check his age. Hey, yo. I don't know what's going to happen next year for McDermott, but maybe they just move on there as well. Like, it could be. He could be. And I guess he would still be. I guess, wait, is O'Connell might be the youngest right now. Oh, no, O'Connell is 40. Hey, yo, he's a man. He's 40, Chad. Shout out. D'Amico Ryans? Is it D'Amico Ryans? 41. Hey, yo, we're getting farther away. It is what it is. Canellis? Let's check Canellis out. Why not? Hey, yo, pause. It is what it is. What it is. 44 for our guy Canellis. Ben Johnson, we're just, hey, yo. Ben Johnson, 39. We got to compare birthdays. May 11th. And I guess he wouldn't be the longest tenured, but it would be the youngest. So May 11th for Ben Johnson. We've got McVay. What's he clocking in at, chat? Pause. January 24th. So that means McVay's older than Ben Johnson. Oh, so he can't quite be the youngest and the longest tenure, but that's close. I guess if Ben Johnson gets fired, then he wouldn't be a head coach anymore. So then, hey, yo, easy enough. McVay would be the youngest and the longest tenured, but I guess he's probably still not the youngest in history, right? Was D'Amico Ryans when he got hired? Oh, McDonald, 38. Hey, yo, June 26th. Is that a Scorpio? I'm not sure. Liam Cohen, how old's the Jags GM? Liam Cohen, 40. So I guess Vrabel, hey, yo, Vrabel should be up in that longest tenured run, but unfortunately the Titans decided to go in a different direction there. So maybe, Tomlin in replace of Vrabel, there is a sort of similarity there that would make sense. But again, it seems for Vrabel, I think, a much better situation that he's just in a different franchise as well. So, hey, yo, and I'm just back to Mike Tomlin's page. I meant to go to Mike Vrabel's page and see when did he get hired by Tennessee. Oh, so he was 2017 as well. So he would be in the same timeline of all those guys. And then, yeah, 2024 obviously sat out. So maybe Tomlin, again, speaking of him being compared to Vrabel, I guess out of that playbook, taking a year and seeing what's going on. But, yeah, we've got Arizona, Atlanta, Baltimore, Cleveland, Vegas, Miami, and Pittsburgh now as the teams that are going to need a coach. Mike McCoy is the coach for the Titans? Did they just hire him, chat? Hey, yo, wait, is he the interim? What happened there? Oh, my goodness, chat. I mean, shout out to Mike McCoy for getting the bag. What happened? Bids farewell. Titans could retain Mike McCoy. That's from 8 days ago, but then 6 days ago, it says he bids farewell. Mike McCoy to interview. So, yeah, this would have been the interim, I guess. Shout out. Interim Mike McCoy extends one thank you. Hey, yo. So, I don't know. Wikipedia, the lack of updates scared us. So Tennessee will need a coach as well. And I guess we were including them because ESPN had them right here, right? In the thing. So we were reading their name out. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about them versus Vrabel. So, yeah, McCoy. And then I guess the Jets at this point haven't done anything. Kafka, the Giants are the other team as well too. So wait, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams that are going to need a head coach. That does seem like quite a bit, honestly. Hey, yo, maybe that's another reason why the Tomlin one is so surprising, just because the number at this point is, or seems like it could have been held off for another year, is because the number at this point is starting to get pushed up there as well. 2+. And Bowles is still there as well. Shout out, keep the man, chat. Hey, yo, at this point we got to get Todd. We got to keep Todd Bowles. It is what it is. As I trying to respectful the phrasing there, but yeah, just the man needs his job. So shout out. Yeah, we're not trying to replace him too soon, but I'm just saying, just taking a temperature of the vibes. It seems like that could be a situation where if we were to make a prediction, something could happen there potentially. So if we were, again, just looking at what could be available, and maybe for Tomlin as well too. Tomlin in Tampa is not bad, and Brady, he's back. Can Brady play for Tampa and own the Raiders? I'm not sure. But if Tomlin were to coach Tampa, would Brady return to coach the Raiders? That's the question. That is, maybe the only scenario in which Tomlin would, well, I guess probably not the only scenario, which Tomlin would probably rather go there with Mendoza at this point. Hey, yo, is that even a question? Is it bad that I have to think about that for a second? Who would you rather have next year, Mendoza or Brady? Oh, chat. Hey, yo, you have to remember, we grew up just getting torched by, Tom Brady just torching everybody's teams every year. So there's always going to be that irrational fear of Tom Brady as a quarterback. But I'm assuming the current Heisman Trophy winner is a better quarterback than any 50-year-old quarterback. Again, it could be any Heisman Trophy winner, I guess, but I'm just saying, like, in general, I'm assuming that you take the best 50-year-old quarterback and you take the quarterback that either won the Heisman or, highest Heisman voting quarterback. I'm assuming that the highest Heisman voting quarterback is better, but I don't know. Is there a couple years where if you took what years did, 2008 Tim Tebow versus 2025 Tom Brady, who would you rather have quarterbacking your team? Again, is it in college? Because I guess then at that point, you're taking Tebow, obviously. Hey, yo. But, I don't know if we can trust Brady these days in an 08 Florida roster. It is what it is. But, if it was obviously NFL, I think you got to roll the dice with, and is he even 50 at this point? I guess we might be rounding up. Is he 45? I don't know. I thought he retired when he was 47. It was George Blanda, essentially. But we'll see. Double check what we've got for Brady. 48. Hey, yo. So, would you rather have 48-year-old Tom Brady or 22-year-old Fernando Mendoza? Let us know. DM us at REMINGTONM on Instagram. Would you rather have him going Monday night into the national championship game? Would you just, if Indiana fans, I think Indiana fans would keep Mendoza. I don't know if that's a question. If you start going NFL guys currently, the guys that Mendoza would replace, he probably is going to in the NFL. So, again, it's not really that much of a take. Would you rather, but I don't know, you're going back to college. It is what it is. Geno Smith, could you take Geno Smith right now? Would Indiana lose the national title game if Geno Smith was the starting quarterback? That is funny, chat. Hey, yo, can we ask ChatGPT? I guess it can't read the future, but unfortunately they haven't developed that tech yet. We're not trying to, talk smack and inspire him to do it, but hey, yo, if it could tell us what the results of that would be, that would be a fun situation. But hey, yo, either way, we do have we have to put the Tomlin era to rest for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but hopefully not for the NFL career, like we're saying as well too. It seems like the man is got the speaking of Andy Reid as well too, could this be the Andy Reid type of run for him? And if that were the case, then I guess Andy Reid went to Kansas City and kind of stabilized that, and then that would be a team that didn't tank out all the way and got their quarterback. But again, that's a rare scenario, and you have to give them credit as well too, because they traded for a guy. That wasn't necessarily. Now is Sam writing our ChatGPT teleprompter? I don't know what's going on here. This is all pro Chiefs pro Chiefs takes that we're about to have. But, you know, it wasn't necessarily them waiting, you know, on 7 rounds and like, I guess we'll take Mahomes now. You know, it fits on our board. Pause. It's like, you know, we got a guy that we think can take over the franchise in a year. We're going to make a move to trade up and maybe take him a little bit higher than some people would assume. But, you know, again, you know, it really worked out. Obviously, the De Niro, the flip side of that coin is not great. It is what it is. So maybe Cleveland is the option then. Shador and Mike Tomlin. I mean, that is pretty cool. If Shador and Mike Tomlin were able to make that a winning team, or Lamar as well too, if you're jumping in, you know, at the peak of the powers instead of, and you know, I guess we could debate that as well too. But you know, if you're jumping in at sort of the prime of the career instead of, you know, the stabilizing type of thing. But maybe that's where Atlanta would be that type of team, because, you know, I don't know if it would be obviously with like Cousins as the quarterback, or even if it would be with Penix as well too. I'm assuming that, you know, you're going to see Penix under center a little bit more for Atlanta at some point. But maybe there is is Penix Alex Smith, and then there's a Mahomes at some point. I don't know. You know, Penix getting to Alex Smith as well too. Would be kind of a, you know, I don't want to say a turn of the career, but would be a fun way for the career to continue to play out as well. Obviously, Alex Smith, you know, fun regular season quarterback, can get you to the playoffs, maybe even win you a playoff game or two. So I think Penix would be, you know, a good ceiling for sure if you were able to get there. But hopefully we do see Mike Tomlin coaching soon, and the Eagles making changes now after their playoff losses. I don't know if there's any other playoff teams that would be in that type of, you know, we lost, things went disastrous, we have to make a major switch at this point, because that was one of the things about the playoffs itself, was some of those new teams. So, and we were talking about that, you know, a little bit as well. Like if Vrabel loses a first playoff game, then, you know, it is what it is. You won like 14 games this year. What did he win? 12 games. So, you know, most wins for like a first-year head coach, like tied all time, I don't know, since whenever, like, you know, just a great successful season. Like, you're going to be happy with that, even if you underachieve a little bit, you know, with what you thought in the playoffs. But I don't think there is another. I guess Buffalo would be the other one that we were saying. Did we say that McDermott was a conference championship or bust at this point? So they've got, what is it? Is that the Broncos? Is that Bills Broncos? That is a crazy sort of expectations game for the playoffs. That might be the number one. And again, Sean Payton is still early on in his tenure in theory in Denver, but there is a little bit of a sped up timeline as well too. And I guess it's more the Payton Bo Nix combo is in its second year. McDonald new, you know, Ben Johnson, McVay, Shanahan, all these guys at this point, you know, you would seem fine. Seattle 7.5-point favorites at home versus, I was gonna say on the road, but they've got the lower seeds listed on the bottom. That is a little confusing. It is what it is. You know, usually it's listed home team, pause on the bottom. But, Seattle 7.5-point favorites. New England 3-point favorites over the Texans. The Rams 3.5-point favorite. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites over the Bears, and the Bears are at home. Oh, chat. Our Super Bowl picks are not looking too bad by looking at the odds here. We picked the Bears and the Bills. We had 2 picks. We picked the Bears and the Bills. And we picked the Broncos and the 49ers. I don't know if that counts, but I don't know. The Bears are 3.5-point underdogs at home, and are kind of a random, like, these teams are complete opposites in the fact that the Bears, like, randomly, you know, if we're just boiling it down to, you know, nothing, the Bears, like, randomly win a bunch of games this year are we saying it the right way? The Bears randomly win a bunch of games this year, and the Rams randomly win a bunch of, the randomly is throwing me off, chat. The Bears randomly win a bunch of games, but the Rams randomly lose a bunch of games. There we go. I was like, why do I keep saying Rams? I'm not meaning to, but then it's because I'm saying randomly. Tripped myself up there. But you've got the Rams can't win a game. The Bears are this kind of clutch fourth quarter team all of a sudden, and them being doubted at home like that is a little bit strange. So, you know, I guess divisional round preview on the REMINGTOM pod. We got tongue twister NFL preview segments. It is what it is. Can the 49ers sell seashells by the seashore? I'm not sure what's going to be going on there. But, yeah, the Rams will randomly hey, yo, it is what it is. But they'll probably randomly ram themselves in the, somewhere, and then lose the game. And the Bears can't bear. I don't know, chat. We're not a rapper. We need to get Eminem in the booth to drop some bars. It is what it is. But is that our bet of the week? I'm locking that in right now. We might go to break and fire up the FanDuel. It is what it is. We might have to start Google it. This is like do we need to Google for an injury? Like, what happened? Hey, yo. I mean, what happened was they were losing 21-3 to the Packers, but that's that divisional thing as well, too, where I think the familiarity there could maybe get a game spiraling in a certain direction where, maybe this type of random playoff clash that you get can maybe sometimes lend itself to being a little bit of a closer game. I don't know. It's just something about those divisional games. You can't necessarily, whatever happens in those, like, even in the regular season, we know that. If the divisional games are close and the teams are not necessarily on the same par in the regular season, it's just kind of like, these teams play every year. Tomlin and Harbaugh have been coaching against each other for 20 years. Like, it is that like did they just divorce? Is that what it is? Honestly, they're just like they're sick of coaching against each other as well too. Hopefully they go to the same division. We need to go back and check those vacancies. I guess, again, shout out our guy Todd Bowles, but if it was Tomlin in Atlanta and Harbaugh in Tampa, maybe they're still coaching against each other there. I don't know. But I guess it could be, well, I guess there's not two in the NFC East as well. Yeah, it would have to be Harbaugh goes to the Steelers and Tomlin goes to the Ravens, which would be maybe that is best case scenario at the end of the day, is those guys just trade teams and keep battling it out. But yeah, divisional round, Bears looking interesting right now on the odds. And but a team going on the road with as injured as they are, you would assume that maybe the luck would run out at some point. So I could see the odds there. 7.5 does seem aggressive though. So I don't know if we're saying money line bets both ways, but again, if you're parlaying both teams to cover, that doesn't seem like it's going to happen as well. Somebody's going to mess that up there in Denver. Again, respect to Josh Allen. I respect that the sports books are going to respect Josh Allen. But Denver 1.5 point favorites at home in a playoff game where the Bills, I think, have been a team that has not, they haven't been necessarily a good team. They've been basically, Josh Allen at this point. Speaking of, so I know Denver off of that, the rest versus rust scenario as well too could be a factor. But I guess all three of our Super Bowl teams, are looking good at this point. I guess the Broncos and the Bills are going to cancel one of them out. It is what it is. So the NFC Championship game, I guess we'll see if we're alive there for a potential Super Bowl pick. And I know we'll take credit in a way if we get a mixed match version of it. It is what it is. But if we get either one, then I don't think that counts for, obviously, get that, hot take. We know that that's not getting the pick right. It is what it is. But one of them will be off the table, I guess, because the Broncos and the Bills are playing each other this week. So maybe we're already going to make excuses. If they hadn't played each other, it is what it is. But I think that if the Bills were playing the Patriots, would we pick either of these teams over the Patriots? I think we would pick over either of these teams over the Texans, though that could be stupid. The Texans defense is, like they showed in that Steelers game, capable of getting a coach to step down. It is what it is. But I think maybe, I don't know, Josh Allen against that Texans defense is going to be a battle. And same against the Broncos defense as well, too. Though, of course, we'll see if, I guess, but Stroud wasn't good in that game against the Steelers as well, too, comparatively. Do we have to go back and check the numbers here on, I don't remember how many turnovers and stuff ultimately he had, because again, their defense was able to generate some points, and they had that pick six late as well too that helped boost the score a little bit. Texans -2.5 going into the game. But Stroud, he had the pick, 3 sacks, and then 5 fumbles. Hey, yo. I didn't even remember that many, chat. Hey, yo. Lost 2 of them, recovered 3. It's crazy. So, shout out the Steelers defense as well, too. It is what it is. But, you have 6 turnover type plays, and we could go back and even double check, the potential dropped interceptions as well, too, if there were any of those. But, just the cleanliness of their offense to be able to, it's more so, how many games in a row are they going to win than, again, like their defense matching up versus Josh Allen. Like, I think, yes, obviously their defense can stop Josh Allen, but they don't have like a, that 4-game lock-in type of vibe type yet. But they got to 30, obviously, without that, even though it was that fourth quarter a little bit of them, pulling away their paws at the end. But yeah, I would still obviously say the Patriots side of that bet would be looking okay as well. And with the way that they took over the Chargers as well too, being one of the more comfortable-ish performances of the weekend. Not necessarily again like major score, but had a good hold of the game the entire time, and a good grinded out victory for a young playoff team. Not necessarily like a too much energy over, either way, where it's like now all of a sudden the chaos is being involved, or, it's like, oh, well, all of a sudden they're at like 40 points. That's obviously a good use of it. Hey, yo. But, just, good steady rhythm throughout the course of the game, able to take the win. It is what it is. I guess, may have a turnover in that one as well, too. It is. That'll be the thing for that game, is he does seem like he himself will have like a kind of turnover. Since defense can generate those, like we're saying, is that going to be an either or situation where it's like, Drake May has his fumble and then the Texans defense has 2 more and then he's at like 4 or 5 for the game, or, is he able to kind of clean that up for a little bit? I guess we'll see. But yeah, we'll take a quick break and then we come back. We still got, some NBA games on in the background. Spurs, Thunder, unfortunately not going our way. It is what it is. But we've got a Norm Powell, Devin Booker showdown that's been an absolute blast, and pause, and, some other fun NBA games, trade machine, and more, chat. Hey, yo, stay tuned. It's great. NBA Tuesday night, the REMINGTOM pod, hanging out right after this. All right, we're back in the fourth quarter for Spurs. Thunder is underway. Hopefully it's over soon. Hey, yo, Thunder are up 20. I mean, again, it's been a good season in terms of that matchup for our team. We can't complain about the fact that we could end the season series up 3-1, but we did have, of course, now we're on the other side of the expectational hype at this point where it's like, oh, now we've lost. Our expectations are crushed. We're not actually going to win the finals. Are the Thunder, gosh darn it, chat. We didn't actually know that. But, again, I do wonder if, because it does seem like we've had a handful of series over the last couple of years spiral out of control like this, where you all of a sudden are at that point where you're like, wait, how is this team up 3-1, 3-0? Over this type of team? Like we said earlier, we have Dylan Brooks versus Norm Powell, Heat versus Suns on the other TV. So Heat Bucks is a series that jumps to mind like that, when Butler and those guys, were able to knock Giannis out of the first round in 5 games. And if I remember, maybe there was a Giannis injury involved there as well too. But that series, you were just like looked up and you're like, all of a sudden, like, oh, wait a second, Miami's like gonna win this series. They're gonna take this series. They just need one more. And not say that, I guess we couldn't still equally match up with them in the playoffs, but that kind of surprise punch, that initial punch in the mouth factor that we had in some of these regular season games. I wonder in that third game if we gave up a little bit too much, if we maybe showed a little bit too much of our hand there, because I'm trying to think, do we have Wemby off the bench for that game? Which of the 3 did we have Wemby off the bench for? That was an interesting wrinkle to think about as well too. Not to think that we would actually commit to that for a playoff series, but it is interesting. But, again, after getting that initial win where, like we're saying, the surprise factor early in the season, not the first loss, but able to be one of the earlier teams to upset the momentum of the Thunder's hot start. And then the national TV day game of being able to go in front of the quote unquote nation and win on Thanksgiving, on Christmas against them as well too was major. So I think in terms of a regular season standpoint, chat, now Wemby on the floor holding an ankle. Oh no, grimacing. You hate to see it. I mean, this is why we got to win a title quick, chat. We got to win a title quick. You get to year 8 quicker than you think. It is what it is. But yeah. Now we're already getting nervous. One game down 20 to the Thunder, and the sky is falling. It is what it is. But I think we could have maybe, just kind of maybe matched up a little bit differently in that game. Maybe some more Carter Bryant minutes. I don't know what the Sohan situation was as well. We got some Lindy Waters out there now. Pause. But, maybe some more Lindy Waters in that game would have been nice as well too. But, again, we're overall with the way the season's going and obviously the way this matchup is going against the defending champs as well too. We have to be very, very happy with, like, that's what we said. It's both sides of it. We are a team that is in a vacuum, obviously constructed to be very, very competitive, but then also match up very well against directly the other team that is, you would say, maybe standing in the way in the Western Conference. Jokic and the Denver and some of those other teams as well too. As some of those other teams. We're definitely not counting them out. But in terms of defending titles, again, we've got to be very content with the way our team is looking there. But yeah, I do wonder if for this season, because again, in those 3 games, if we were able to stun them, obviously in a playoff series and maybe the 2 games would have been enough for them to know, hey, we obviously have to be locked in when this series approaches. But I do wonder if we could have had a similar impact in the playoffs as well too. Because, and I don't know if this fully makes sense, but I think we would need that sort of ambush type of mentality. And again, it's not the series where we're playing this team, back to back to back, pause, like we would be, and maybe that type of familiarity actually benefits them as well too, of course, with the game planning stuff, and Dagnall is a great coach. But you could tell in each of those matchups that there was a carryover, and there was a nice spacing out between those where, it felt like they were kind of thinking about those games. It seemed like a little bit, in between them as well too. But, again, I think we, obviously, like we're saying, the matchup and the competitiveness is there, and hopefully the team continues to get better. Obviously, I don't know if this is a time to pivot into the trade machine quickly, because obviously we've said the Thunder with Giannis, and we've looked at that in the past. I think with the Chet contract, I think if you're Milwaukee, that would be the piece. I think if you're the Thunder, you could obviously get it done this year here. Let's just go back. Giannis trade machine for January. This doesn't count, chat. This doesn't count. We can have a Giannis trade machine episode in January. We said once a month, though. Pause, though. It is, halfway through the month at this point. Hey, where does the time go, chat? The year is flying by. So maybe we could. It is what it is. But we'll peek quickly just to see if the point is correct. Because, and I'm sure, again, if you can trade, respectfully, if you can trade Hartenstein and some picks and stuff, I'm assuming that as a base deal can get done here. I might have to look this up on a second source just for speed's sake. Shout out, call in. But for getting the quickest results, I'll also look this up in the background as well too, and maybe actually paying attention also would help speed up the search. It is what it is. But yeah, with Chet being on a poison pill contract, that does, even if his contract was just the straight number back and forth, pause, as well too, that would be obviously way easier because there is the cap flexibility both ways to combine players in a trade. They're not really restricted by the aprons in that sense. So if it was just, again, obviously generally easier to match the salaries, then we could be really, really nervous. It's honestly the one thing that is kind of saving, not the one thing as well too. There could be others. I'm just thinking about San Antonio. Just naturally clicking on them, chat. It is what it is. But yeah, you've got Hartenstein at $28 million, gets you halfway there. Giannis at 54, and then Dort at 18 million. So those two guys is 56, 54, and then, again, just throwing in contracts. Isaiah Joe, does it have to be a 2 for 3 in this situation? Gary Harris is minimum going back the other way. That's another one. We're like, they got Gary Harris in the trade. Sam Presti, he's a genius. It's like, I don't know if Gary Harris has, logged, great minutes over the last decade, but for the most part, guys have liked him when they brought him in for the team. So, I guess the trade machine said that this is even. Apparently, Hartenstein, Dort, and Isaiah Joe is equivalent to bringing in Giannis in terms of impacting wins. I don't know if that's even for this season specifically, where, I would still think that obviously you'd rather have Giannis than Hartenstein, Lou Dort. And we're not this is not the trade. Obviously, there's picks in the trade, but we're not going to go through and figure out the logistics of what exactly. Is it this protected pick? Is it this one with the lottery? Is it from this team? Whatever. We understand there's 9 picks. You have to send in the Giannis trade. It is what it is. Especially if, you're not getting Case and Wallace or something back in the deal as well too. But if you're Milwaukee, I think, and maybe, Jalen Williams as well too. What's Jalen Williams' number? Is he he might be on a poison pill. Yeah, they're both on a poison pill. That is tough. I don't know if him being on a lower salary would help that or not in the deal. Probably not. Might make it a little bit more difficult. But either one of those guys would be the main target that you would get back. Again, if there was a really, really favorable pick, Utah 2026, but that's top 8 protected. So they might try to keep that one. San Antonio in 27. What do we get that back for winning 3-1 in the season series? I don't know if that was part of we should have put that in the protections. Can we get that? Maybe that would have made it more competitive. The Thunder, we have to win this game to get this pick. But it's we'll lottery protect it, or if we win the season series, then we'll get our pick back. Maybe we just unlocked a new way. I mean, you could say, you can't do that in an NBA trade. Why not? If the teams agree to it, pause. You can do anything, but I think you can make up, protections on a pick like that. I'm sure if the teams agree to it, you could probably go, hey, we'll top lottery protect this, but if Shea wins the MVP, then we get our pick back. Again, we're not saying that would make sense in any way, but I'm just saying if, again, obviously a hot take, but if the teams agree to it, I think it can make sense. So, if the league wants to have stakes in a regular season game, again, I don't know what kind of motivation that would have for the players. The organization, the GMs would be locked in. Presti would really be trying to motivate these guys in the locker room beforehand. But yeah, obviously you're trying to get, if you're trading for Giannis, if you're Milwaukee, you're trying to get Jalen Williams and Chet. And guess what? I think if you're OKC, I guess a playoff run could change that. If Chet and Jalen Williams are awesome in the playoffs, and again they did win the finals, because, in a sense, because of Jalen Williams last year. And not to say that they didn't win because of Chet as well, too. But when I do think of that finals team, and again, not to disrespect Chet, but I think of obviously Shea first. I do end up thinking of Jalen Williams probably second, and then kind of a Caruso-Dort tie there for that third spot. And then maybe Chet, Hartenstein, in the mix there for number 4 or 5 as well. But, again, is it Shea? And then as long as you have some of the perimeter threats locked in with the defense, you can make that work for a large majority of it. Obviously, if you have Jalen Williams now going for 40 and the two-way stuff on the other end is going to be, what puts you over the top as that elite team. But I think that if you are OKC and you can get Giannis for Jalen Williams or Chet, you're probably going to do it again. But, does that become like a little bit, I'm not saying Shaq, Kobe, because again, you don't necessarily have to decide in this situation, who your star players are going to be in terms of your, building your organization around your guys. But in terms of, keeping, the young superstar in that sense or trading for the older one, again, not necessarily a Kobe scenario, I guess. Was there a trade where they could have, I guess Kobe did request a trade maybe at one point, again, if there was a trade for, I guess we have to go back to like 2003 and see, could they have gotten Chris Webber for Kobe Bryant back in the day? That would have been interesting. That would have been interesting, Chris Webber and Shaq, but and that sounds crazy, obviously, and that might have been ahead of its time as well too, with those two front court guys together. That might not even have known how to coach that in 2002. It is what it is. But the clutchness of Kobe, with all due respect to our guy Chris Webber as well too. I'm not trying to hold a grudge for the Michigan days, but obviously I'm just saying from the Kobe's perspective with what he was able to do in clutch moments for that team, who could that be replicated by is obviously difficult. Hey, shout out, rest in peace. Obviously we're just on a Kobe tangent at this point, but again, Jalen Williams, I think are you pivoting on, is this guy a guy that can be like Jaylen Brown or top 10 type guy in the league? Is it worth, I guess, again, trading, 8-9 years, I guess, of Jalen Williams, and you do start to, split hairs, pause. Not to say that 1 to 2 seasons isn't important, but it's like, hey, if Giannis can be there for 5 seasons, is Jalen Williams going to be there for 7? And then maybe he gets another team situation or modern NBA, the team has to go in a different direction with the way the contracts build out. I don't know. So, again, there is that risk that maybe Chet and Jalen Williams just become untradeable because of their own play as well. And maybe the Chet thing goes the other way where it's like you need a couple more pieces than you would have thought with Chet in a trade. But, again, you have the picks to be able to bulk that up. So I imagine, and, maybe that actually becomes easier for OKC as well too. Like I know we talked about this with Sam, but that just becomes, 41.5, like you're, again, I would say you need to throw in more pieces, but from a contract standpoint, that just immediately takes care of a lot more of the trade. It makes the trade much more easier at this point. It's the give or take pause. It's like way more difficult now because of the poison pill, but way easier in the summer. If I'm reading it correctly, and if he can get traded when he gets on that veteran extension, I guess that would be the other question as well too. It's like his first year on the veteran extension, now he can't get traded, which, again, keeps the teams together. And I'm not saying that I want the Thunder to get Giannis, but also we love the trade machine, so it would make it frustrating there. It is what it is. And the trade machine with the nicknames here, Cheddar for Chet, do we have to double check that on the Basketball Reference, verify? Cheddar, Chet, Holmgren, or is it Chet, Cheddar, Holmgren? I'm not sure which way as it goes. And maybe, Chetta, I'm not sure. But, yeah, I think that would be a trade to Trae Young, a trade to in the offseason potentially would be a Chet for Giannis type of situation. But, again, if you're Milwaukee as well, too, if you could get Jalen Williams, that would be, I think, maybe the main guy that you would try to target. Or Shea. Hey, Giannis with Jalen Williams and Chet. Not a bad combo. Shea in Milwaukee. But I think we know that probably not going to happen for the Thunder. It is what it is. I don't know if there's other, trade guys that jump off the page immediately. I know we could blame that in the modern, on the second aprons and all that different stuff. But I will say that this year does seem like, and I know this is the ultimate jinx as well too, there will be a guy as we are in that less than a month stage for the trade deadline. And there are some teams that are going to pivot, again, with the second apron. Maybe a team like Cleveland can't necessarily do that in an easier way, in an easy way, like maybe they could have in the past, not to say that would have been easy, but, easier than it is now. But I would say that it seems like, and I would say, I was going to be dramatic and say everybody is happy in the league. Obviously, again, that's not the case. But maybe the statement is the league is happier right now than it has been in the past. And it seems like, again, with the young Sar, hey, yo, Sar's maybe playing happy right now. I don't know, pause. But, with the young stars, Alex Sarr being one of them, in the league, and maybe there is just an overall contentment right now. And maybe even, I don't want to say that the mindset of the player has shifted, but, maybe the wave of guy that, again, I say this respectfully, it's just like, I'm, just throwing out words, not thinking out the sentences too much, but as guys that just fell for the wave of the player empowerment era. And again, not to say that's a bad thing, not to say that, again, the league has even neutralized that to a standpoint where the players now thinking are like, oh, well, I guess trades aren't as possible. Like, we don't have to worry about that. Like Jay Billis, I remember said that about like the NIL deals in college. And that's a mindset. The way he described the mindset, was something that's really, we tried to, it's just something that we thought of for a lot of the different sports stuff. But he was talking about loyalty to college teams back then. And he's like, obviously it wasn't even, it's not that the guys were extra loyal. They're not walking around thinking like, I'm going to be loyal to Duke. Like, I can go around and have a choice, but I'm going to stay. Or, obviously, again, Billis, that's the team that he's on. So that's the name that we're throwing out there. Maybe guys are, loyal to that program compared to other ones. I don't know. But, now that's an option. Like now as a player, that's what you can actually think of that when you're playing. You're like, hey, I can play here and then potentially use this to, in the Division One, I guess it's not FBS and, NCAA, but in Division One for college basketball in this mindset, you can use that to potentially maneuver to a different school and continue to set yourself up for different types of successes. But for the most part, it does seem like a lot of the teams are trying to see what they have with this group of guys and maybe not mix it up too much. I guess maybe just that whole kind of that middle of the East run, and maybe just Atlanta, I guess already made the move, but maybe, and that would have been, I guess, Ayo, the one guy, but that's been a guy for the last couple of years and does seem like he is kind of in, that last wave of, like we're saying, the player, where I guess him and Shea are not too far off on the same timeline. Like what, Trey was 2017 draft and Shea is 18, or maybe they're both 18. Maybe they were, because Shea and Doncic are same draft, right? So Shea, Doncic, Trey are all the same draft. So I guess they are on the, the same type of timeline there. But maybe like the Paolo, Edwards, Wemby, hopefully the Wemby, classic guys, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like there is the same type of buzz for movement and, like, oh, we got to get to the big market teams. Are we going to LA? Are we going to New York? Are we going to wherever? Like, it's just like, it seems like the guys are on their teams and they're just going to see what happens. Like, Cade is on the Pistons. Again, the Pistons are good. But, like, the Pistons just want to see what this team is. The Knicks, I guess, could make that Giannis move. There is a potential move to be made. Like, again, is it difficult for them to make moves? Yes. Could the New York Knicks make a trade? I think absolutely. As long as you're under the second apron, I think you can make it work. Again, I think trading with other teams as well, too. Like, they have to also, be under the second apron. And they're, chat, they're right there. $148,000 under the second apron. You don't have to be a lot under the second apron, to technically to be under. Pause. Like, is Siakam a type of move that is going to swing a deal? You got, I'm sure maybe a team like Indiana more willing to make a move for a veteran player, move away from a veteran player like Siakam for, a couple of other type of swings, just as they reset the franchise. Not to say that, you would do Bridges for that. And I guess, he's 45 mil, probably a little too expensive to bring into the team, especially considering, a forward as well, too. I don't know if he'd necessarily, add positionally pause to the roster as well. Like Kawhi, would it be Kawhi? I guess Kawhi maybe is the interesting one. If a team just wants to say, we'll take like the mercenary style offense from Kawhi, though New York would be, I get chat time. New York would be an interesting one because again, they are kind of that top heavy team. So, if you trade a star player or two, you're still top heavy. So pause, you're not necessarily, you're probably getting away with this trade without giving up too much depth. And the Towns Kawhi, like Kawhi is definitely offensively, and especially this year, we've seen him hit really crazy levels, can play at a level higher than Towns can. It is what it is. And, not even a hot take. Like, we've seen Kawhi, obviously, at the best of his best in Toronto, winning finals MVPs and stuff like that. So, again, I don't think it's disrespectful to Towns to say that Kawhi is a better player than Towns. But with respect to Towns, we're not sitting here easily saying that we would trade Towns for Kawhi. You're giving up a very consistent player. Towns is out there quite a bit and is a guy that can, here's a guy that can rebound and maybe potentially lock in defensively, time. Who knows? I don't know if Harden's been talked about for the Knicks or not. And Anunoby's been pretty good this year as well, too. So, at least he's, Bridges recently signed, they're saying, here on the Fanspo. So, I guess, as they would be just reading off his contract. But I guess for the restrictions, he would have some recently signed restrictions. Like, would you potentially do Hart and Mitchell for Kawhi? Again, now speaking of depth, now here is a trade where you're sacrificing depth. That's not going to get you enough, I guess. That's going to be 35 million almost in this trade. So again, they're not going to have enough salary space to make that happen. This would have to be a 3-teamer where somehow the Clippers are sending something else somewhere and then a pick or something is going to the Knicks. I don't know. But Towns for Kawhi is just not quite enough. If you're, I guess, can you go 2 for 1? Because it is 53-50. So do they have another piece potentially? Hey, is Chris Dunn in Kawhi enough? Bradley Beal in Kawhi. You get both of the stars on the Clippers. I don't know. Here, we got to switch the game real quick. The Suns versus Phoenix game that we were talking about, that game is over. So time to move on. We will pick another one. Shout out to Norm Powell for another victory. Speaking of untradeable guys, obviously the Heat will never give up on Norm Powell. It is what it is. Denver up by 4 with 10 seconds left in the fourth, if the league pass is up to date. But I guess we're probably going to tune into Hawks versus Lakers. Hey, we've got Corey Kispert. Is Corey Kispert in the lineup yet? McCollum and Kispert versus Doncic and LeBron. Is that the way it's being marketed? I think maybe Jalen Johnson would be in there as well too for star players. Maybe Kawhi to Atlanta. I don't know if they're quite getting that aggressive with the trades. Kawhi back to Toronto. They're 4th in the East right now. Hey, would they win the title again with Kawhi in another rental year? Would you do Quickly is $32 million. Hey, it's like 80% of the contract. Are we good at math, chat? I guess it would be probably more like 64% of the contract. Hey, we actually are good at math. It would be 64%. We'll stick with that. It is what it is. Murphy Boyles is too much. Podol, probably too much on the salary as well, too. Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, Mamushvili. Mamushvili, only 26. Can kind of light it up off the bench every now and then. I don't know. Sheed, Grady Dick. Hey, they are kind of a pause. Hey, a deep team. Abaji and Quickly too much? It's not too much for Kawhi. Hey, right? You got Kawhi, Ingram, and Barnes and Barrett. Maybe there's something there. You Quickly and Harden, maybe there's some overlap there that you're not thrilled about, but I don't know. The younger player just starting to collect those types of assets, would be probably the right way to start building the team. Oh, not quite enough. Oh, we're way over the contracts. It is what it is. I guess we can't do math. Oh, yeah, we're only 38 to 50 here. Yeah, I guess Abaji is only at 6, so he's not really boosting that too much. So it would have to be like a Barrett and Quickly situation for Kawhi, and then we're back into like a 2 for 2 as well. Kobe Brown, though? I don't know. You get Kobe Brown and Kawhi? Cam Christie and Kawhi for Barrett and Quickly? That's close. The Celtics is a really interesting one as well, too. If you get Tatum and Kawhi back for the playoffs, would you do Simons? And now Derek White for Kawhi at that point is too much. But Simons and Derek White would start to get you there for the for the contracts. Trade Tatum to the Clippers, let him rehab in Los Angeles, and then trade him back to Boston. I don't know if you can make that work with Ballmer, but I'm sure if you call aspiration, maybe there's some business dealings I'm sure you could make work with that. So, again, with the understanding that, I don't know if you announced that to the Celtics fans, like, hey, we're trading Tatum to the Clippers for 6 months, and then they're going to trade him back. The trade, like, do you have to announce the trade that way? Tatum, like, where it's already set in stone that this trade is, he's going to be traded back on this day 6 months from now after the season's over for these assets. It's just a rental. Like, again, if the teams agree to it, how would that work? If you could somehow get the team to be up, we're just spitballing here on a Tuesday night, chat. It is what it is. Hey, yo, pause. If you could get a team to somehow, like, be up on draft picks at the end of the day. So, maybe there's picks moving back and forth, but at the understanding, it's like, hey, you're going to acquire an extra first round pick to hold on to Tatum's contract for like 6 months. Would that make sense? Again, the Clippers are the 11th seed in the Western Conference. So wait a second, like, the Pacers, let's think about this for a second. Not to say that we're geniuses breaking open the NBA, pause, but we may be on to something here. I guess the question becomes, who do you want as well? That would make sense. Like, again, Cooper Flag, are you going to rent out Cooper Flag for a first-round pick for 6 months? You probably want him in the organization, continuing to get those developmental reps. I don't know. But maybe a team like the Warriors, where maybe Boston's not the team for this. I don't know. But then here, let's go back to the Knicks maybe real quick. Like, Steph for Towns. I don't know. Is that too crazy? Like, why would the Warriors, be like, hey, Steph will be back. Don't worry. But he's got to go win a title in the Knicks real quick. And then we'll, get Towns. But maybe it's Butler. Maybe it's Butler for, now the contracts are going to start running into each other. Butler for Towns at that point is not going to work. Would it be a Detroit situation for them trying to push to the title? Pause. And then you've got, I don't know if Jimmy Butler is going to push you over the top, but you do of course have that Tobias Harris expiring, and his importance to that team as a leader has been highlighted. If I'm not mistaken, I think I was hearing Windhorst talk about that earlier in the season. But hey, yo, we'll credit any basketball takes to Brian Windhorst. Shout out. It is what it is. But if it wasn't, then I guess our bad. And maybe not Stu LeVert. Again, the Warriors are going to have to get a pick or two back in this as well. But if you're getting, and the thing is, you're getting Jimmy Butler back at the end of the day. So it's like, we'll get a first round pick and Jimmy Butler back on the roster. Maybe the Warriors fans would be like, yeah, we'll just take the first round pick at the end of the day. It is what it is. That's not too bad. Philly is 5th in the East. So, Embiid rental. I don't know if that would go over well. Again, like Maxey and Edgecombe getting reps together is pretty important. So I don't know. Maxey at 32 a game would be just like a crazy, hey, yo, we've traded him to, hey, yo, like OKC for what, like OKC, I guess, would be the team to do this as well, too, because they just have the surplus of first round picks. So let me even think logistically. I guess you could just keep it. So if the trade had 2 deadlines worked into the trade, does this even make sense, chat? Hey, yo, this is late night. We don't even have the takeout in the room at this point, but this is just late night. We're cooking up trades. We're trying to figure out how to make teams better. You gotta get creative in 2025. You gotta figure out how to get Tyrese Maxey on a roster. I guess we gotta figure out why are we not thinking about our own team, chat? Hey, yo, we're over here building up the Thunder. Like, how can we get Maxey on the Spurs for 6 months and just see what happens? Do we have the contracts? I guess, hey, yo, we're gonna start trading some valuable names away. There's a name at the top of the list, like, oh no, I mean, if we win the title, I guess we'd want him to get, does he get a ring still? He would get a ring, but if we actually had Maxey on the roster, Ishbia wants to win, so I don't know if he's willing to, get Booker off the team for a couple months for a pick as well, but he's another prime candidate at 53. Starts to get a little rich. I guess here, let's bring Boston back in as a potential candidate. And, again, let's assume that as we get to ramp up here, again, the playoffs aren't like right around the corner, but they're kind of around the corner. And maybe when we get to the trade deadline, you would know, like, hey, are you really going to be ready for the playoffs? It's like, if we don't want to totally push it for like a non-finals, I guess if you could get, and maybe Ishbia would somehow, figure out how to work. He'd be like, no, actually, I'm just going to keep Tatum if I could trade Booker for Tatum. But if you knew that Tatum was going to be out for the playoffs, could you trade Tatum and some type of, again, now we're protecting the pick, but if it was some type of pick, 2 seconds, that's not enough for Booker. What do we got here? A 2031 Houston second. Is that something that Matt Ishbia would fall for? I don't know. But if you go, it might have to be seconds, honestly. And then seconds and a player, Baylor Shireman in 2 seconds, and Tatum, definitely an upgrade in the shooting guard minutes if you bring in Booker. So as much as you might like Shireman going forward, it could be something that you're willing to risk. Again, contract stuff, maybe it gets a little too heavy, but Phoenix does have space. So Baylor Shireman, Tatum, and then we've got Orlando, Detroit, or Milwaukee second. So maybe this Milwaukee second might not be too bad. And then, wait a second. We've got this 2028 swap rights first here. So do you want to start trading that for, a random title this year? I don't know, but it's fun to think about. Utah holds swap rights 2031 seconds. So here we go. We got 2 second-round picks, Baylor Shireman and Tatum for Devin Booker. But then the trade states that Tatum goes back to the Celtics in 6 months after the final. Then because you can then swap Booker for Tatum, their contracts are the same. So the Suns still get Baylor Shireman and 2 second-round picks and Devin Booker. Does that trade make sense, chat? So again, Tatum, he's out for the year. He'll miss the playoffs. He'll be on the Suns until like July, 7th. I guess, when does the league start processing, moves? And then once the league processes moves, once the deadlines even up for these guys' trades as well too, because there may be like a recently traded 12 months. That's where it would all of a sudden you're like, wait, we didn't read the rule book. He's going to be out for half the year, 12-month trade for 6 months. But it was like 6 months, from February. We can't do that. So maybe that does put you close to the regular season. You're kind of getting to like September there potentially. But maybe Tatum has to play like 3 or 4 games to start the season on the Suns. I don't know. Tatum is traded back to the Celtics by Game 6 of the 2027 regular season. Otherwise, the Suns have to default Baylor Shireman in 2 seconds back to the Celtics, which I think maybe, honestly, Ishbia would. But I think it would have to be, okay, so then you would have to get them to default more back. See, chat? This doesn't even make sense. This is never going to happen. I guess this is what happens when the Spurs are down 18 in the fourth quarter. It is what it is. But you would have to get the Suns to default like a unprotected first back as well. Which, again, for Tatum might not be too crazy. But, again, you're losing Booker, franchise legend. It is what it is. I think Tatum is, well worth it getting him back there. But a couple, so, like, all of the first-round picks that you can trade, you're defaulting them. So I guess if, they decide that they want to do that, then the Celtics are like, oh, well, I guess somehow we got Devin Booker in 7 first-round picks. We didn't really see that happening at the end of the day, but I guess it's what it is. And Baylor Shireman's back. Welcome back, Baylor Shireman. But there's something there with the team getting screwed over. We could see it happening. I could see it happening. The Clippers, like we were saying earlier, this is an organization that could get tricky like this. I don't know. But I don't know. See, DM us at REMINGTOM Pod. Teams, we got creative trades over here. We're getting 6 months rentals for some of these guys. It is what it is. Pause. But yeah, I guess I don't know if that counts as trade machine corner or not. But again, for the Stars, I guess, outside of Mitchell at 46, Mitchell for Ja. I don't know what you're doing here at this point. Mitchell for Paolo. Are you swapping Stars for the 6 and the 7 seed? Probably not at that point. For Mobley, probably not as well would be something that you would do. So yeah, it doesn't say, and the Giannis thing again is going to loom as we'll do. I guess LaMelo and Ja are going to be one. So yeah, LaMelo is somebody who, we definitely still would love to see in a different situation and see what he could provide to a team. 37.9, so 38 million this year. 4 years left on his deal. The salary cap will go up over the next couple years. Oh, I didn't mean to click on Minnesota, but they do need a point guard. LaMelo and Anthony Edwards on the same team. Can the league handle that? would Anthony Edwards be ready to be the second star on the team? Oh, chat, we didn't mean to motivate Anthony Edwards like that. Oh, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. It is what it is. Gobert for LaMelo, Randall for LaMelo, probably not happening as well. There is talks that maybe, Naz Reid could be a potential upgrade spot. I don't know who's talking about that. I think we're just making that up. I don't know. But DiVincenzo and Conley for LaMelo, they're not working with a ton of cap space to be able to absorb some contract here. You start getting to 3-for-4s and stuff, might get a little crazy. So this might be a 3-teamer if he were to go to Minnesota. But that seems like a kind of a good pairing, honestly. They had D'Angelo Russell there. Did D'Angelo Russell play with Anthony Edwards? He played with Zach LaVine? Maybe? I don't know. But if Anthony Edwards' point guards over his career were D'Angelo Russell, LaMelo Ball, that's just a fun career. You got to love that. It is what it is. LaMelo Ball and was that Steve Francis that was playing with? Not Steve Francis, who was Marbury. Marbury was playing with Garnett back in the day. So it was like a Marbury, LaMelo Ball, D'Angelo Russell, Minnesota Timberwolves point guard lineage there is kind of a fun thing for sure. But yeah, they are definitely, in need of that type of, I guess, a playmaker. I don't know, that type of playmaker. Portland for LaMelo, Scoot for LaMelo, Drew Holiday and Scoot for LaMelo. Drew's been a good veteran, though. Dame with the no trade clause. Hey, yo. You've got Robert Williams as a contract you could throw in there. Scoot at $10 million. Jeremy Grant at 32. Is this like kind of maybe we make this a blockbuster deal? Oh, no. Maybe we pause. We blow it all the way out. Hey, yo. Whoa. We go Jeremy Grant and Scoot. Gets you to 42 mil. LaMelo going the other way. Are you throwing in a pick as well, too? A 2026 swap is what they have. They have they have a top 2 protected first via Dallas and a Miami lottery protected first as well. So they could give up a first in this, but I don't think I would. Maybe this lottery pick, and maybe you top 20 protect this for yourself as well, too. I don't know. Again, shout out, but I don't know if I would need to give up a first round pick for Jeremy Grant. Maybe a half first round pick for each gets you to 1, but you're getting close there. Could you go Sexton and LaMelo? Could that be like a fun Colin Sexton's the better the better guy in the trade? I don't know. Grant Williams is back from his injury. We were seeing the post on his Instagram pop through our algorithm. I don't know if Connaughton has been a productive enough guy for you to value in a trade like that. Kalkbrenner, if you want to bring him in. McNeely, untouchable, chat. Hey, yo. Probably not trading him. Grant Williams and LaMelo. Grant Williams seems like he could have a Blazers run in there. Has he already had a Blazers run? 51-42. So Portland's got to throw in another contract. Hey, yo. And Shaedon Sharpe. Sharpe on the poison pill. What does his poison pill look like? Hey, yo. I mean, shout out. I was going to say, we love Shaedon Sharpe. I still love Shaedon Sharpe on this pod. I think Sam's still pro Shaedon Sharpe here as well. 20 mil? 20 mil in 2026 is not bad. I was going to say we'll take him on the Spurs, and then I was hesitant, but 20 mil, we'll take the bet. Hey, I'm getting excited, knocking the earbuds out. It is what it is. The shooting percentages have not been there in 2025. 2025, 26. Make no mistake, but maybe they're able to turn around if he takes a different role in an offense. I don't know. It is one of those things that would be nice to see what Portland could look like with some of the maybe that exact type of offensive playmaking, though. But again, his athleticism and his driving abilities, and there's some dynamic stuff there with Sharpe that you still got to love. But unfortunately, the pieces just aren't, totally being put together at this point. Chris Murray could be a name involved as well, too. And Josh Green seems like a Blazer type of guy. So you go Josh Green and LaMelo instead of Grant Williams? I don't know. Scoot and Jeremy Grant is quite a trade. Is that Bridges and LaMelo for Scoot and Grant? Pause. Let's see what we get here for the contracts. 62-42. Hey, yo, Bridges for 2 years. Bridges does seem like a Portland type of guy. Again, Drew Holiday, Dame, Robert Williams, Thibault, just like a mid-contract, pretty good player. Maybe like a tinge overpaid, but What's his contract skill level compared to Grant's contract skill level? Like, I feel like that might be slightly better value. I don't know. And a little bit younger? I'm not sure. Again, you're bringing in the LaMelo contract as well, too. So, Portland, well, yeah, Grant and Henderson, they need to give Yang? Hey, yo, Chris Murray, but then Robert Williams as well, too. Let's chuck him in there. And, hey, yo, pause. See what we got. 56 to 63. This is going to be close. I don't know if this will work. Let's see. Oh, it does work. Portland wins the trade, but Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, and Scoot Henderson for LaMelo and Miles Bridges? That's not bad. That's not bad considering I'm irrationally thinking that Scoot could be like a fun franchise point guard for that team. It's like Scoot and Brandon Miller. A Scoot Henderson Con Canupo backcourt would be unstoppable. But you do also, I guess just in general, get some contract flexibility, maybe long term, because Williams isn't expiring. You know, again, Scoot's a rookie, so $10 million's a guy that is a good trade asset as well. 21 could still be a great player, and Grant is, I guess, got 3 years left on his deal, but it would be 2 after this, so it's not like he'd be untradeable potentially. 34 and 36. It's close. It's close. I would think that LaMelo and Miles Bridges on Portland would be pretty fun, though, honestly. Hey, yo, LaMelo and Advia and Shaden Sharp and Klingon. Again, LaMelo and Shaden Sharp, it's a weird offensive team. But their defense and their effort, I don't know. Somehow they continue to make it work. I guess if you think, 19 and 21 is making it work. LaMelo to the Warriors, where he should have gone all along, chat. Hey, yo, they have a chance to correct the Wiseman trade. Would you do Butler? Hey, yo, would you do Butler for LaMelo? I guess and you would have to get some more back from Charlotte just in terms of the contract. So I think that would make sense in my LaMelo and Josh Green. Maybe this is where that makes sense. Because I don't know if Draymond and Grant Williams, do we do that just for the chaos of it? Draymond and Grant Williams on the same team? Oh, no. But that's 54 to 51 on the trade machine in terms of the salary cap. Let's see here. Successful. Oh, so Charlotte 2 wins better according to Fanspo. I don't know. Golden State must waive a player. Oh, so it's Draymond, chat. Now that they've got Grant Williams, they don't need Draymond. Maybe, I don't want to call out Will Ricard or I guess they can't cut Quentin Post. Guy Santos? No, these bench guys are valuable. Oh, it might be Melton? I don't know. Melton's pretty good, though, too. I don't know. Is Grant Williams over Melton kind of a debate that you could have? I don't know if it's one that guys are having. But if there's a barbershop out there talking about Grant Williams versus DeAnthony Melton, give me the address. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But Moody, are you getting Moody back in this deal as well? LaMelo for Butler is interesting. Because, again, the Warriors have to be in the spot where you're probably admitting to yourself you're not going to win the title this year. It is what it is, but you still have, obviously, Steph Curry and the ability to just capitalize on a special performance there. You're in the playoffs as of right now, so you get through the playoff game. Steph Curry has some fun first-round moments, and just getting a younger player in LaMelo as well, too, compared to Jimmy Butler would be, that's the D'Angelo Russell, speaking of, bringing it back, D'Angelo Russell for Kevin Durant type move. Is that a fair comparison for LaMelo? I think our irrational confidence, irrational love for D'Angelo Russell as a player has been well documented over the years. So maybe LaMelo Ball is Sam's D'Angelo Russell. I don't know. Is LaMelo Ball the D'Angelo Russell of Steph Curry's? Maybe that's a lazy one to say, the Steph Curry's of. But because I guess LaMelo a little taller. Yeah, he's kind of more of a 2 guard. So I don't know if he's the D'Angelo. I guess D'Angelo Russell's a little taller in a sense. I don't know if he's the 2 guard of Steph. Is he the D'Angelo Russell of Steph Curry's? He might be. We'll workshop that one. But there's something in this trade that I think would make sense. Maybe Kuminga. Maybe Kuminga for LaMelo is the move, kind of bailing out each of these franchises in some younger options where they haven't necessarily figured out what to do with either of these potential players as well. Pause. But Kuminga at 22.5, again, it's a swing, but you do get a little bit more, you're a little less on the salary there per year, and you do lose a year as well too, even 2 years for the contract. So there is that extra flexibility just overall that you get, and the Warriors would actually have to end up throwing stuff in the trade as well. Kuminga and Buddy Hield for LaMelo? Is that too much? Maybe it's a 3-teamer. Butler goes somewhere else, and then it's another kind of major asset moving in as well. I guess Butler for LaMelo is not bad. I guess Butler and Charlotte might be a little depressing, but him with the energy of some of those young guys, Ayo, could be fun. I don't know, him and Knuppel, maybe he's, Ayo, reinvigorated to compete and helps that team get into a play-in spot. How many games behind are they right now? 14, 18, 4 games? I don't know. Can Butler make up 4 games? On the Bulls, if he wants to get revenge on his 2 former teams in the play-in, the Bulls and the Heat, Jimmy Butler play-in revenge tour? It could happen. Or maybe he just goes to the Hawks to help that happen. The East play-in at this point, I'm seeing online being rebranded as the Miami, Atlanta, Chicago Invitational, of those teams just making it every year and playing each other. But Kristaps isn't expiring in Atlanta. Would you do Kristaps for LaMelo? Oh, were we saying Jimmy Butler to Atlanta? Who's going to Atlanta? LaMelo taking the taller Trae Young. Is LaMelo the D'Angelo Russell of Trae Young's? That's kind of the same thing as Steph Curry, honestly. It is what it is. But is he the D'Angelo Russell of CJ McCollum's? I don't think that one quite works as well. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you could get there mostly with the Kristaps, and then that's just a salary dump as well, which I don't, maybe a little disrespectful to Kristaps. It is what it is. But, yeah, I don't know if you necessarily would just trade LaMelo for clear salary space. Though LaMelo for Darius Garland would be interesting. Darius Garland a little more expensive than LaMelo, so that might work out for the Cavs here in this situation. Let's see if this is a move that they can make. A 1-for-1? Oh, you can make this move. LaMelo for Darius Garland. Would you have to throw in a pick if you're Charlotte as well? One of those protected picks? I'm not sure. Hey, yo, that's not bad as well, too. I mean, you may be able to do like I guess LaMelo for Ja we weren't even thinking about. You could do that. That's not bad either. Again, that LaMelo could just be both these guys could be change of scenery guys. Again, are you resetting maybe what the mental, just what in terms of having that superstar that maybe he's not quite playing at the level that you want, and then again, like we're saying with the contracts and the years and all that stuff, you're still again, in the same sort of spot that you are with Ja compared to LaMelo. I get that either way, both those teams. But at least, you're trying to pause with a different guy. I mean, a different player maybe is a better way to phrase that. But, it may not be the worst attempt in the world if you just have to move on at some point. But, yeah, again, I don't know if that'd be the most thrilling move for each fan base if they just ended up swapping point guards like that. But LaMelo to the Pelicans is not bad as well. Or the Clippers. I don't know, Kawhi to Charlotte doesn't really, do much for the landscape of the league as well. And I don't really know, does LaMelo for the Clippers do much of the landscape of the league? And LaMelo and Harden together that might be a little disastrous, honestly. I don't know. LaMelo in Utah, LaMelo in Sacramento. LaMelo in Utah is up there with our Dylan Brooks in Atlanta reality show. I don't know. We were trying to look for another player. Maybe our second season is LaMelo in Utah. I'm not sure. LaMelo in Salt Lake? Maybe it's something like that. LaMelo in Phoenix. Let me see. Is there something that has LaMelo in DC? I don't know. LaMelo in Philly. LaMelo in Philly. Could be a reality show. Could it be a reality on the roster? Hey, yo. Look at us. Mike Greenberg over here reincarnated. Paul George for LaMelo? Probably not Maxey. Paul George for LaMelo. I don't know if, we've been that sold on the Paul George performance this season. But again, Philly's they've looked pretty good when some of those guys are out there. Are they going to win the East with those 4 guys on the court together? Probably not. But again, it's an okay team. It's fine. Probably not wowing Philly fans. Giddey for LaMelo, Vooch, as well as Zach Collins on the expiring. Zach Collins and Pat Williams for LaMelo is like a depressing kind of realistic trade. That could happen. Bring in Pat Williams as a wing. The LaMelo and Josh Giddey is weird but fun. Hey, yo, pause. That is 2 guys that, again, I don't know what the defensive potential for that backcourt is. You know, a lot of not a lot of defending that backcourt. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But offensively, that would be crazy, and you would definitely have LaMelo's off. You know, his. Hey, yo, you know, both of those guys are capable of scoring and playmaking. LaMelo out assisting Giddey this year. Hey, yo. But I think LaMelo could maybe focus more on scoring and then Giddey on playmaking. I don't know. But you could... I kind of like that move for Chicago, honestly. I kind of like that. I don't know if that's my favorite trade so far, because, again, I think that kind of doesn't really get Charlotte too much, with all due respect to Pat Williams, but it could. Pat Williams is still a 24-year-old wing. I mean, hey, yo, what are we counting Pat Williams out for? It is what it is. I mean, the man can still probably play some defense. He can learn to hit a corner three, potentially. Though Sexton would be a trade deadline guy that, you know, are we going to sit here and say that Colin Sexton's going to swing the finals if he goes to a team? But as a six-man depth type of option, he could be obviously an interesting pickup for somebody. 1 year gives you that flexibility, and $19 million, you know, it's probably no more than 2 contracts away if you have a couple of bench guys that you want to send over there as well. Did we say Sexton to Portland? You know, if that's like, I don't know, Scoot Henderson, could he be Colin Sexton these days? What was the random upside comparison we had earlier that was like kind of okay? It's like, yeah, if this guy could still be that would be fun. I don't remember, but if Scoot could still be Colin Sexton, that'd be great. Hey, yo, what a win. What a win. Colin Sexton for Ja. And then you've got Ja and LaMelo in Charlotte that way. You know, again, you need a little bit more. Sexton and Miles, I almost said Myles Garrett. Hey, yo, Miles Bridges for Ja. Can you trade Myles Garrett to the Titans for Ja? I think, you know, we wouldn't be the first ones to say that cross sports trade should be real, but that would be fun if they were. Absolutely. LaMelo for Fred VanVleet. I don't know, defensively, Fred VanVleet's only $25 million, I guess. The VanVleet for Sexton, though, is not bad. If Houston wanted to attach a pick to that, Brooklyn swap rights. Houston has the right to swap its 2027 pick with Brooklyn. Whoa, that might be too valuable to give up for Colin Sexton. I don't know. They've got the 2027 Phoenix with no protection, pause, and then Memphis second, no protection, couple other picks. Dallas or Phoenix swap rights in 2029. Okay, would you do a 2029 Dallas or Phoenix swap for Fred VanVleet and Colin? You know, would you make this work? Fred VanVleet and a pick for Colin Sexton? You know, VanVleet 2 years. Again, you don't want to disgrace the fact that unfortunately got hurt this year. And I think he probably would be better for this team than Sexton at the end of the day. Oh, yeah, it says he's 4 wins better than Colin Sexton. It is what it is. But at least that's something in that spot for this year. And, you know, you get a good veteran point guard there as well, too. Can help you when he's playing and when he's not. You know, when he's playing, it's like, hey, he's helping Knuppel out. When he's hurt, it's like, hey, you know, you're chilling. Knuppel's playing. We got it. As long as we have Knuppel at the end of the day, we are going to be okay. I think that is the Charlotte slogan at this point. But hey, yo, maybe we'll return to the trade machine in a second, but we do have to shout out a show that we just watched. You know, I don't think that it was just us that watched it as well, too. I think it was everybody, because it's #1 on Netflix right now. But His and Hers, the new, like I said, #1 show on Netflix, starring Tessa Thompson and John Bernthal. And we've said before that, you know, we're not really big TV show watchers here, so you know, it's not necessarily something that would be the first thing that we would gravitate to. It would just be the new Netflix TV show. But it is, again, a cast that we were like, okay, if we are going to watch one, it would probably be something with this cast. Hey, yeah. Oh, here we go. 2026 series. First thing that pops up, of course. So Bernthal and Tessa Thompson. I mean, hey, yo, you get them in. You get that star combo in any sort of property, you know, is going to be something that we're going to be checking out. So the fact that it was a limited series as well too, if it was a season 1, if it was like season 1 of His and Hers, which, you know, who knows, maybe Netflix, it's probably popular enough that at this point Netflix will just make shout out Alice Feeney, the author of the novel that they adapted this from. You know, I'm sure there probably might be another novel as well too. You know, we're not familiar with necessarily, you know, too many books here on the pod. especially newer ones. It is what it is. But I'm assuming that they would just have her cook up a new script, a new book for a second season and keep it going if it's it is successful, so we don't have to say if, but just seems like the path these days. But it was, because of the limited run, something that we were definitely more willing to check out as well too. And we binged through it, of course, and also we were seeing some stuff about a plot twist online, so we should say spoilers as well too if you haven't seen it yet. If you do want to check it out, we will talk about it, so we will end up spoiling it. And the plot twist is pretty good. I mean, again, we don't watch TV shows, but you watch enough murder mystery type of things, and I think at any point you'll guess, especially for us, we'll guess almost everybody will have done it. So we can take credit for guessing right, because again, we'll have guessed everybody. But there was a definite moment in the show where I'm like, okay, I think I could see that being the twist, and it did end up playing out that way. Again, we'll definitely spoil it as we go through. It is what it is. So spoilers for his and hers, if by any chance you've seen it. I'm assuming that if I've watched it, everybody has seen it at this point, because usually that's how we're late to the game with stuff. I'm not even saying that, it's just how it goes. We're like, okay, we'll finally check it out. It is what it is. So we caved and we watched it. But yeah, we did also, of course, have to just watch it, because shout out, it was starring Tessa Thompson, and Bernthal as well too is going to be at the top of the watch list for projects that we're going to be watching. But just a reminder of course, how great of an actor that Tessa Thompson is. And again, this is going to go in that TV series, of course, category as well too. But because it is that limited type of run, it is a little bit more, of course, in that movie type of vibe, and just the hit nature of this as well is pretty crazy. But I was trying to think about, and I was thinking back on her filmography as well too, because again, like I said, not watching TV. And another reason that I guess I don't watch TV shows, I don't know if this is a good reason not to, but I think I know for the most part that I'm not going to rewatch a TV show, and I guess it's not a bad thing. Again, if you're just going to be crushing through shows and watching the next seasons, it is what it is. But I do like, if I'm going to watch a new movie, it's like, hey, this movie could be something that's in the rotation, whether, again, new movie or older movie that we just haven't seen yet, newer movie to us. It's like, this is something that could be watched time and time again. And not say that you can't just throw TV shows on in the background all the time, but I guess for me, working my way through a bunch of TV shows all the time, it's just not, again, something that personally I do. But I was just thinking about, again, for Tessa Thompson as an actor, and as a lead actor as well too, as like one of the star characters, like how many vehicles can we throw on like this that are gonna have her as the main person like that. And of course, she's got the whole Westworld run as well too, with, I guess, I don't know exactly how many episodes, but yeah, I mean 2016 to 2022, obviously a crazy successful show, and crazy critical success as well. So again, it's not like, oh, here's Tessa Thompson as a great actress, but again, it has been in that TV world. So I don't know if she ended up getting, like, here, let's see awards and nominations for Tessa Thompson. I guess I was watching this going, there's an Oscar in here at some point for Tessa Thompson. And again, maybe it depends on the lane. If you're going to be in the TV shows, winning for the TV shows is, in some respect, it's the same thing as well too, just depending on, again, the medium that you're acting in. It is what it is. But for us, like we're saying, in that movie sort of sense, we are looking to see who crosses over into the quote-unquote big screen in that way, and who is going to film from, award box, however you want to say it. But I just, like, absolutely one of the best actors that we have working right now, and got nominated this year for Hida. Another one. Oh, Nia DaCosta on the director. Hey, yo, we got to lock in on the film circuit, chat. It is what it is. There's one of our managers at work is like a kind of like a film. Can I say respectfully, film nerd? Just like, cool guy, chat. Hey, but, definitely locked in on the film game. Oh, it's on Prime? Oh, this is why we didn't see it on like theaters and stuff. Did it get a theatrical release? What did it say? Film premiered at 2025 Toronto International Film Festival, September 7th. Okay, so it's not it's not too old. Kind of just came out. Streaming on Prime, October 29th. Nominated at the Golden Globes. I saw, of course, I think everybody saw it. The Golden Globes were this weekend. But, with just hearing how some of the awards cycle stuff has gone, no disrespect to any of the movies on the award circuit, but I think we all know that Sinners was the best movie of the year and had some of the best performances, and it just and there's all kinds of levels to which the movie, the horror genre, there's all kinds of things that are being disrespected in the process. But it's like I don't know how locked in we're gonna be in knowing what the other nominations are. I don't want to have like tough feelings toward these other movies because they were taking down Sinners in the awards circuit. So like if we ever watch one of these other movies and enjoy them, that's not want to be the first thing I guess I think about. But I guess in our minds we know what the winner is. So I guess what do we need to watch the Golden Globes for and see them get it wrong? But yeah, so I guess we weren't locked in to see this movie catch our attention in that way. We need to be more locked in on these people's IMDb's. We're talking about them as our best actor, as our favorite actors. And hey, how many people are out, like, if you say their person's your favorite actor, I guess it's not like you have to be looking ahead at their IMDb all the time. You could also just be checking out the projects and enjoying the ones that you see that they're in, like we were doing with this His and Hers one as well too. But this does confirm that we're gonna have to tap into somebody's prime now at this point. Pause. Because I did see that they do have the Blade series streaming on Prime now, and we want to watch Blade. We watch Murder at 1600 on Tubi, and it's like, well, I just want to keep watching Wesley Snipes movies, so can I watch Blade? Blade's on Prime. Somebody else recommended something to us. Oh, the Champ told us to watch something on Prime, and then somebody else at work said to watch something on Prime, and now we got Tessa Thompson getting nominated for movies on Prime, so what's this Amazon thing we're going to have to sign up for? It is what it is. Speaking of being out of the loop, I guess, giving you blame us for catching up on movies, I guess if we haven't signed up for Prime yet, it is what it is. But yeah, so this is, but again, obviously that award circuit type role, but I think there is a good, like, is she going to be cast in Dune 3? Like, can we get her in Dune 3? Can we get her in the Odyssey? Like something that's in that, commercial critical crossover as well. Because I was surprised going back and looking at the films as well too, about how many like those franchise type films that she has been in. And again, not a bad thing. Take the paycheck, be in good movies. I mean, Thor and Love and Thunder is just obviously a great movie, as well as, again, a Marvel property and all those different stuff. It's one of those transcendent Marvel properties because it was able to be just a unique and original film in its own right. But, again, is still going to have that sort of general attachment. And then because you're in the MCU, you are going to maybe end up in a couple other projects. And then, not all the other projects are going to head the certain way. The Marvels went a certain way. The Creed is the other one. And I guess I don't go back to Men in Black a ton as well too. I haven't actually seen this one, so I don't know how it holds up to the other ones. But Creed, and then there's another one that I'm thinking of as well. But again, now you're looking at some smaller films as well too. I guess a smaller film in Selma for sure, tiny little film there. But for the majority of the last 10 years outside of the Creed film, I guess 2018. Sorry to bother you. Annihilation, Furlough, Little Woods. We've got Dirty Computer, I guess a short film. We got the Third Studio. We got her in a music video on the Janelle Monáe album. Maybe something else to queue up as well too. And then Creed 2 in 2018. But yeah, I just think there's like that. There's gonna be a big movie role. Hot take. A bigger movie role for Tessa Thompson at some point. And again, what do we say? What, you need a bigger role than the number one show on Netflix? It's just whatever, like that next sort of crossover that Michael B had this year, where it's like, okay, obviously, if going into 2025 before Sinners dropped, if you were just like, hey, name movie stars, who are the biggest movie stars in the world? Who are your favorite movie stars? Who are cool guys to watch on TV? You're going to get to Michael B. Jordan's name pretty quickly in that list. But obviously after that extra performance in Sinners, he goes to that extra level of, and I'll say fame. He goes in that extra level of, I'd not say that again, he wasn't on the A list, but he's locked in that extra way. And I think Tessa Thompson, again, there is that, I would say that maybe it would be the commercial boost a little bit more than like the, again, finally crossing over into the awards nomination thing, the way that Michael B did. But maybe that's how it would be for Bernthal as well too. I don't know if Bernthal has an Oscar in him, but I think he might as a support. We have to double check. Has Bernthal ever been nominated for Best Supporting Actor? And I was trying to look up some of his upcoming films as well too. Also, he is in the Odyssey, but for the most part, again, he crushes, of course, in those type of you see him get nominated here in a bunch of ensemble casts. So yeah, never at the actual Academy Awards. Outstanding guest actor in a comedy series, The Bear. Outstanding cast, King Richard. Outstanding best actor in a streaming series, the Saturn Awards, The Punisher. So yeah, Fury, of course, Wolf of Wall Street. Small Engine Repair, best acting ensemble in a play. Ooh, best lead actor in a play. Ensemble acting. Small Engine Repair. Is this on YouTube? I don't know. A play written by John Polono. The play centers on three friends who gathered one night under a mysterious premise at a repair shop, exploring themes of regret, fraternity, and masculinity. Hey, yo, I mean, I think you could... Can you explore those with John Bernthal? Hey, yo, pause. But, I mean, hey, yo, it is what it is. And, you know, speaking of The Punisher as well, too, obviously, again, that comic book type show, but those are very character-driven. Those Netflix shows are very character-driven, and the acting across a lot of those is very, very great. Obviously, the story from time to time and some of the non-Daredevil stuff is maybe a little, a little hit or miss. But him and Daredevil as well, too, is really great. It really is what makes, that second season, I think, is a little, again, because of some of the story and, maybe not as clean as the first season, but his effort in that season is just what makes that season intoxicating to watch. And, there's some brutal fighting stunt scenes that he is just amazing in as well, too. And there is a little bit of a one sort of energy thing that he does bring, but I was about to compare him to Gene Hackman. I don't know if John Bernthal is the modern day Gene Hackman per se. Again, I think Gene Hackman is a slightly more of a lead than Bernthal, but Hackman did, I think, become that later in his career, whereas Bernthal could be breaking into that now. Could Bernthal, like in his 60s, is there going to be like a Bernthal buddy cop Chalamet? He'll Bernthal have a movie with Chalamet, and then he'll have one with Austin Butler, and then he'll have one with Damson Idris, and it'll just be like all the young Hollywood stars, the up and coming stars. He's just gonna start doing movies with them. The Gene Hackman playbook. Actually, I think it was the other way around. The other stars were seeking out Hackman to do movies with him as well. Not saying that Bernthal wouldn't get to that level, but again, Bernthal, I don't know if he quite carries a movie and an acting like at this point on that award circuit type way. But like I'm saying, I don't know. I'm sitting on the take is brewing. I guess I shouldn't necessarily doubt our guy and sit here and say I want to make the take but can't quite commit. But hey, yo, I'm like 95% of the way there with the John Bernthal can win the Oscar take. I think maybe we just need to make our takes like, maybe do we have to have like a poly market take market where we don't have to be 100% sold on a take, but this is our percentage for take percentages. I like 95% sure that John Bernthal is going to win an Oscar. I guess, just percentages in general is probably the thing. But the Rem and Sam poly market percentage is at like 95%. I mean, that's pretty high. That's basically a guarantee that John Bernthal is going to win an Oscar. But I guess for my confidence in selecting whatever the percentage, so if the percentage is at 43%, I'm 95% confident that I believe in the 43% chance. Hey, yo, again, Rem and Sam Math Corner. It is what it is. But I'm buying stock right now. Tessa Thompson Oscar. Again, you got to get the right setting of movies as well too, because again, you can get nominated for his and hers. Not to say that I guess we'll have to see for the next award circuit and stuff what is capable there. Because I guess I don't know. It wouldn't have been up for this Golden Globes. Obviously, it just happened and it kind of just dropped. But when that right movie with the right creator, the right hype drops, it'll be there for sure. But yeah, we definitely had to give credit for that. And if we were to spoil the twist as well too, so you do have, I guess we can go, it'll be easier to, I guess, look through the premise than us have to describe it. So you have a set in Atlanta, set in Georgia. You have a Delagna is the county that they reference time and time again that they're in. And Anna is a former news anchor living alone after withdrawing from her career and personal life. She overhears the news of a murder in Delagna, if I'm saying it right, the small Georgia town where she grew up. The case jolts her back into action. Drawn by professional instinct and unsolved ties to her past, Anna returns to Delagna before digging into the killing, convinced the truth has been buried beneath layers of silence and half-remembered history. So Tessa Thompson and John Bernthal or they used to be together, and then as you find out over the course of the show, and I guess the book as well too, and this is where the spoilers are starting to hit. You find out, of course, that they lost a child when they were together, and that trauma ended up in their paths to recovery. Just that event ended up being something that kind of ended up forcing them down separate paths in lives. Hey, we had the show on in the background. Hopefully, we definitely got to go through this premise to make sure that we caught all the pieces right. And was there a couple of scenes where we're like, okay, we understand that this is heavy dialogue, approaching, it is what it is. But I'm not saying that this was like watching it for the action. But it's like, okay, I probably understand that this is what it is. And again, the limited series is not committed in terms of time wise to like even like a obviously like a 13, sort of that modern day 45-minute season 1 that we expect to get from these types of shows. But it is that, kind of instant trilogy of movies in a sense that you are getting with those 2 episode segments kind of working as, decent, like a 90-minute, hour 45-minute film. And what happens is, it seems like in a lot of times, some of those middle episodes, it just, obviously there's a little bit of a, especially when you're adapting a book as well too, and you have those 6 episodes, you're not as committed to trimming some stuff out. And movies can have this problem as well too, where movies themselves can be paused too long. But if you have a TV show, I'm sure you're still leaving some stuff on the cutting room floor and all that different stuff, but you're just giving yourself 3 movies worth of time to work with, so you're going to be able to draw the story out a little bit more. And not to say that I'm sure as we mature in life and we get more open to some of the storyline stuff that's happening, it'll be more intriguing. But it is a lot of limited series like this it is a little bit like a Norm Macdonald joke. It's a long walk in this direction, and then at the end of the series, bam, like you're over here in the complete opposite direction all of a sudden. It's like, okay, I get that the walk, it's the long walk, speaking of books, shout out Stephen King, but I get the walk was executed well, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't a long walk. And I guess if for us, if you love Norm Macdonald, then I guess you're willing to take the walk every time. And what really ends up happening as well too is, of course, the walk itself becomes pause as enjoyable as the sort of twist and the joke. So I guess if you're into the sort of, again, the drama and the crime and all the different stuff, you're gonna enjoy the story beats in a sense of what is happening. And again, it's very well written. Like Tessa Thompson is just, there's some scenes where you're just like, man, she is just like 10 out of 10 acting, really going for it here. This is incredible stuff. And the plot twist is really great. And so you get of course, the initial murder, a couple of other murders throughout. And there was what ended up being like, again, some sensitive stuff is, a lot of stuff is addressed in the show. So I didn't want to just like casually start throwing out plot points and not, give everything its proper attention. But there was some events in the past that, unfortunately, Tessa Thompson's character experienced as a teenager at a birthday party, involving some teenage guys, and it was accidentally captured on camera. The event, again, that the Tessa Thompson character was suffering on her birthday, and the mom at some point in the, just over the years, found the videotape and had watched it, and it plotted revenge, basically for the other girls at the party that had kind of set up the event. And ended up being like Tessa Thompson stepping in and saving one of the characters, and ended up Tessa Thompson again, ended up suffering the trauma of the event that happened. But the mom is and again, spoiler, we've already spoiled it, but the mom is the one that ends up plotting the revenge, of course, and is the one that is carrying out all the murders over the course of the show, which does become a little bit, of course, of a, would you let your grandma, like, could somebody's grandma kill you, is essentially the question that you could ask. Like, with all due respect to, my own grandma, any other grandmas I know, even in I guess, if they get the drop on you, what are you going to do? They sneak up on you. There is one where the second murder that she gets, she does sneak up on the lady and, gets a clean, I guess, I don't know what we're allowed to describe on her, but it's, pause. She gets her from behind while she's not looking. So, hey, yo, pause. It is what it is. So, again, in that case, if I'm just like, if I'm sitting here watching TV and all of a sudden, like, bam, whoop, we're done, then, I guess in that case, yes, I guess somebody's grandma could take you out. But there is one where, I guess, but then sneaks up in the dark on the first one and stabs a couple times. So they do make it seem like, yes, I think this old lady could get away with it. And there is a moment in one of the episodes where they mention that she is like, over the course of the episodes, again, just like you think one of the storylines, like, oh, the mom has dementia, you have to deal with this now. It's just like, again, another obviously sensitive real life thing that is something that, characters would have to deal with, even outside of the fact that it's like, yes, here's this murder and all this other life stuff that's going on. And, again, other things that are just unavoidable that you have to take care of as well, too. But there's a part where after, and, we're not the only ones in 2025 watching shows with closed captioning, but watching anything with closed captioning. But watching stuff with closed captioning does reveal, I don't want to say it makes you pay attention more, because I guess you could just sit in and lock in on the word. Hey, yo, did people used to do that? Did people used to sit down and just pay attention to the movie only? Imagine back in the day. Hey, yo, but there were a couple like over the like in the background phone calls, and then a couple of guys shouting something in the background, guy on the TV reporting stuff, and just seeing the closed captioning and just like even knowing that, the closed captioning people are putting the reports up and stuff as well too. It's like, okay, there's something going on here. But there was a moment where, again, the mom is suffering from dementia. And after one of the murders, there's a quick report that goes out that she was walking around and they caught her out that night. And they're like, oh, I think her name was Alice in the show. They're like, Miss Alice is wandering around, and again, obviously with respect to, any real life overlap out there, they had caught her undressed walking around outside. Again, blaming it on the medical condition that she had. But it's like, okay, so that is, and again, I'm not saying it's a condition that people fake. I'm just saying that it is one that in the course of a show that you could see somebody potentially executing some things that could, of course, be mistaken for somebody having dementia. Like that could be one that you could fake. Again, not saying that obviously, that's respect. People, don't, but I'm just saying if you're trying to get away with killings like this mom is doing in this show based on, and I don't know what the book is based on in terms of reality. Is everything these days based on a real story? I don't know, but again, so I guess this did this happen? Did the mom kill everybody and get away with it? I guess, and now we're writing a book about it would be an interesting turn of events. I guess maybe not, knowing on the fact that it just kind of ends with her finding out. So unless the unwritten part of the book is, and then Tessa Thompson turned her mom in and did the right thing, and we forgot Pablo Schreiber's in this as well too. So this is like the next big Pablo Schreiber thing after Den of Thieves, because unfortunately, you see Halo here on Paramount Plus, definitely a big franchise get, but it did not necessarily, I think, have the pull, the same sort of what do you call it? It was not received well. To put it lightly, it is what it is. So wait, what year was Den of Thieves? Hey, 18. Here we go. Okay, so 18, he had Den of Thieves, Skyscraper, and First Man. What a year for our guy Schreiber. And then you have the television stuff. So from film, he kind of has been a little bit backed off. 1 in 19, 1 in 20, 1 in 22. The King's Daughter adventures, sci-fi film. I guess kind of in a different lane there. And then Motor City in 2025 as well. Cheyenne Woodley, Ben Foster, Alan Rickson, Pablo Schreiber. It's not a bad little cast there. Seems like a fun potential movie to check out. But he's pretty good in this as well too. He does definitely. There is a scene where at the end of the show, he's playing a guy that's having an affair with Tessa Thompson's character in the show. I guess, it's an affair. They're split up, but I guess he's having an affair because he's married. So yeah, he is having an affair. It is what it is. But there's like some, other plot twisty stuff going on there as well too, that could kind of, you get some, of course unveiled a little bit later on, but you do have a scene where he kind of flips the switch and starts to go crazy. And it's like, okay, we got Schreiber acting here a little bit. Like, this is interesting because in Den of Thieves, he is, really like that one note, just like brooding kind of the whole time. But he is able to stay at that frequency. That it's he's really good at acting at that frequency. Again, I don't know how many movies you can do in that Den of Thieves kind of lane, but there is something to that where, not to say that he can't have these big swings in emotional performances, but I think maybe he could even find a way to play those types of psychological flips, while kind of like, maintaining a lot of the, like we're saying, kind of that steady energy that he provides that is really effective on screen. Because again, like Bernthal's almost known for going crazy. And when Bernthal has to get serious, there is like an intensity to his seriousness where, he's really saying his words and he's really like, and what's the Bernthal phrase that everybody, let me tell you something, hey boss, let me tell you something, like, again, Bernthal, like his cadence and his delivery, there's a little over the topness to all of it. But at Schreiber and Den of Thieves, he's almost, I don't want to say he's better acting when he's not talking, but there is a skill, like, and again, I don't, to make the Heat comparisons to Den of Thieves, and now, the compliments and the insults are flying in both directions at the extreme, but he can't act when he's talking, but also he's Robert De Niro. But I guess you get what we're saying there. Like De Niro in Heat is able to do some of the, not the facial expressions. Yeah, obviously he is able to do the facial expressions. I think Schreiber's not doing the facial expressions like that, but there's a tone and a presence and just a charisma that he's able to have when, he's just kind of walking around and being on screen. And Schreiber has that as well too. And you see him with Bernthal as well too. Like, yeah, he's a charismatic on-screen presence. Hopefully he doesn't shy away from like action roles, because he could be just a great, again, I don't know if like a Keanu Reeves is obviously not the right comparison, because for his build and style, like Keanu Reeves couldn't be the imposing guy in Den of Thieves like Schreiber. He could be a sleeker, more tactical, John Wick-esque version of a guy doing that heist. But the way that, Schreiber's just like that, that like defensive end, just overpowering presence is a different type of character. But again, a guy that is, when he's in roles, and again, I'm saying this respect, it's a talent. You have to be good at it. But a guy that's going to be good at the stunts and the big tactical things and the big action movements, and if he can, like Hemsworth in Extraction, like I think Schreiber can do that, but that's a good actor movie. Like I don't know if, and I'm not as familiar with like, is it Black Hat or is it Rush that Hemsworth is in? Maybe he's in both. I'm not sure. Is Fassbender in Black Hat? Let me look up Chris Hemsworth filmography here. That maybe seems like a better comparison than Schreiber, because again, he got there as an actor as well too. I don't know if Schreiber could do the comedy in Ragnarok that Hemsworth was doing, but 12 Strong, yeah, we got, okay, Extraction, Furiosa, that's right, he's also in Furiosa as well. Ghostbusters, Huntsman, he's in both. Okay, he's in Black Hat and he's in Rush. So I guess I'm not as familiar with like his acting chops in these movies. But again, even as a more subtle, veteran, kind of weathered, doing his job, again, even as brutal as it is, like doing his job, collecting his paycheck, and, get in, get out, get the task done. Like he is able to execute that presence extremely well. So I could see Schreiber in a lane. Aaron Pierre in Rebel Ridge, I think better actor than Schreiber, but again, guys that are able, I think, to execute those action movies at a high level is, and we were looking at like Salima, the director of Sicario, Day of Salado. We were looking at some of those movies that he was making, and if some of those kind of fun, random, again, B action movies are being made again, hey, guess who's gonna enjoy that? The REMINGTOM pod is gonna be, I would say, be there in the theater, but it's 2026. We'll wait for it to hit streaming. It is what it is. But once it hits streaming, we're queuing it up. But we were big fans of Schreiber in this as well too. I mean, obviously everybody in his and hers were great, but he was one of the more main characters, as well as just, in general, sort of top build. But again, at some point we were going to guess that basically everybody did it. You kind of know that Schreiber is obviously not the main guy, they do kind of twist it in there with his wife character as well too. Yeah, the sister you never really think of, and the whole time, it's more debating. It's setting it up to make it look like Bernthal did it. It's a little kind of a Gone Girl type vibe, and then you're thinking, okay, are they going to twist it back to where maybe Tessa Thompson did it, and then maybe they both ended up doing it together? So the main debate was almost more, who ended up, which one of the two were the one that did it, or again, were they in cahoots the whole time? There was actually one scene. There's a scene where, again, spoiler alert, again, a lot of people are dying in this. It is what it is. But the sister character is one of the characters from Tessa Thompson's past that is on the wrong end of, in terms of being, on the evil side of what happened that night, and she's one of the people that ends up paying for the, we're phrasing it that way, obviously, in terms of the show, but, however you want to say it, ends up paying for the actions of it, with the mom getting the revenge. But there's the moment where the moment leading into her death as well too, if we can say that, that is maybe some of the best filmmaking of the show. I want to say that might be in episode 5, right before the sister died. The anticipation of that and the way they're filming the house and her going through the house and getting the night, just like get the drink ready, get the bath ready, just the way it kind of hits some of the horror tropes, where again, you got a very like thriller show, but it's more a drama thriller than it is like a horror thriller per se. But for that moment, it did turn into a horror thriller, and you don't see the actual other 2 murders on screen. That's the one you actually see get committed as well. The other ones are like you get a body. The second body pops up halfway through. Again, we were spoiling well into it this time. Spoiling backwards. We always spoil backwards. Hey yo, pause. Hey yo. But there was a moment where Bernthal falls asleep in a chair. He drops his phone, and then it cuts to the next morning. He picks the phone up, and it's like this call at this halfway point in the moment in the show is definitely for another body. I would have paused the show and bet on Polymarket at that point that it would have been a call for another body if they would have let it happen. And he picks up the phone. They're like, oh, we've been trying to get you all morning. We got some crazy news. He's like, what's up? We found a second body. It's like, okay, there we go. We're at the halfway point of the show. It is what it is. But neither of those you see actually committed on screen in real time. You get the flashback, what happened, of course, after they reveal everything. And the twist, the final sort of twist you have in the way they're kind of throwing you off the scent as well, too, is they have the Tessa Thompson character, Anna, doing these voiceovers of something that she's reading over the course of the show. And it turns out that the mom has written her confession out. And that is how Tessa Thompson's character is finding out that her mom did this. She is actually, her and Bernthal together again at the end of the show. Life is good. They've got a second kid, so, a second chance together and sort of that new life. And it turned out as well, too, another main part of that was the baby that they had together unfortunately passed away under the mom's watch. It wasn't something that they said, hey, yo, destroying the microphone over here. It wasn't something that they said that the mom had done. I guess we're not locked in with the that type of stuff to know what I think they referred to it as crib death. Again, I could say the phrase and not necessarily know what the exact specifics of that would be. But I'm sure, as they were saying in the show, legitimately, Ayo, as horrible as it is in respect to the real life overlap there, but they said it was nothing that the mom could have done. But either way, obviously that's not gonna clear the conscience in those type of moments. But she gets her daughter set back up in this new life, gets her a job where she's promoted. She's like taking out the other news reporter at a big station, and now Anna's got that job as well too. So after her daughter is set up well for life like that, she is able to, I guess at that point, then confess everything to her in this written letter. And then you find out, of course, that voiceover was her reading that letter to herself over the course of the show. And it does, even there for a second, like even to the last second, you're like, oh, okay, maybe it actually was Anna this whole time. And you're like, oh, the mom, that makes sense, because she is also one of the only other characters that is recurring by the end of it as well too. Hey, yo, again, they kill the sister off, and then there is a what do you call it? like a I don't want to say like a sidekick cop. What do they have? A partner. Yeah, Jack's partner. I guess she's a detective. Shout out Priya. Her name's Priya in the show, and she's in it as well too. So I guess quite a bit as a recurring character, so she could be another one that I guess could be a suspect in that sense. But yeah, it did make sense. The twist would eventually work its way down to the mom. Pause. But it was, hey yo, but it was very well executed and strung out to the last minute, and the voiceovers, the voiceover letter, the fact that Anna was reading that to herself, definitely strung you along until the last moment, and was a great way to play that out as well too. So, you know, I'm always if there's something that has a plot twist, it's like, oh, now I have to watch this. What's this plot twist situation? It is what it is. But yeah, this was a really, really good one. And I don't honestly know all the times what necessarily counts as a plot twist. I guess, you know, the plot twist. I mean, I'm sure, you know, I think the court says plot twist. You know it when you see it, right? So that's the rule. But I think, you know, obviously this one counts for sure. Jessica Chastain, a producer. Oh, chat, shout out. Hey yo. I mean, you wouldn't even have to read us the cast. You just told us Jessica Chastain is producing. She's the 6th producer on this. We'll be there. It is what it is. Bill Dubuque, not Bill Duke, but Bill Dubuque, screenwriter for The Accountant. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Bernthal, and the overlap there. I don't think Tessa Thompson was in The Accountant, but maybe that'll be the pairing. Maybe he'll write the Tessa Thompson Oscar-winning screenplay. It'll be a heist movie. Tessa Thompson wins for a heist movie? Of course. That's how Hollywood works, right? But yeah, hey yo, if you want to watch a spoiled show, pause. I guess we spoiled it. Hey yo, the show is not spoiled. Just to show that if you want to watch a show that we have spoiled, then, you know, there you go. His and Hers on Netflix, 6 episodes, and the episodes themselves are, you know, pause, like good. They're good length on the episodes. You could get a 6-episode show where each episode, you know, is pushing an hour. Maybe you're like 55 minutes of runtime, and maybe like the finale, you know, in the Stranger Things model, you get like an hour 15 on a finale. But each episode is under 45 minutes. Sometimes you're more in like the 35-minute range once you throw the credits on there. So it is a pretty easy watch. I would say it's almost more 2 movies than it is 3, but either way, highly recommendable. Tessa Thompson is a legend, and I'm keeping my eye out in 2026. I was talking again with somebody at work about this, but it's like, who is the you know, the quote unquote random breakout star? Because here, I guess we didn't look up the Golden Globes when they happened, but let's look up the Golden Globes, because, you know, again, Michael B. Jordan. Would we have necessarily had guessed in 2026? And, you know, you would have looked at the slate and gone, okay, Coogler, original film. There's definitely, you know, obviously those two guys working together again. There's definitely something that could have happened there. But would that have been number one pick for, you know, are we going to walk away from the year thinking that Michael B. Jordan is, and, you know, again, maybe I'm being a little bit projective here of what we think, but it's like, is Michael B. Jordan the number one star in the industry? And, you know, again, I'm sure you could make cases for other guys. Are people going to say Timothée Chalamet after Marty Supreme? Hey, yo, where's the latest ceremony at? List of Golden Globe ceremonies. Here we go. But yeah, in terms of, you know, carrying a box office film as well too, I guess, you know, Chalamet obviously led Dune, so he can do it. But, you know, again, Michael B. is obviously right there as well. Would we have walked away from 2025 thinking Jack Black is like legitimately maybe the biggest box office draw that we have? You know, Corn Sweat as Superman. Again, you're saying, hey, yo, just the new guy playing Superman. It's not that Superman's like a surprising role, but I would say that Corn Sweat's ability, and I guess we're talking off of what we've heard people say. I'll admit, still haven't seen it yet. It is what it is. We're Batman fans. We stand with our guy. But, you know, it does seem like Corn Sweat, and I like Cavill as well, too. I'm starting to become more pro Man of Steel. Not pro Man of Steel, but pro Batman versus Superman. So I don't know if, you know, it's like Andrew Garfield's our Spider-Man situation, but Cavill might be our Superman. I don't know. But, you know, again, Corn Sweat was definitely a guy that, you know, had a big stock boost this year because of the way that he was able to crush that role. So we actually need to get to the right year for the Golden Globes here. Shout out to Nikki Glazer once again as well too, hosting the new Ricky Gervais. Nikki Glazer. Mescal? Is Mescal and Hamnet? Yeah, and Chloe Zhao. the Eternals director. I might have to throw that on tonight. I've been thinking about rewatching that, giving it another shot. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, Mezcal's a guy, of course, that I think people have had an eye on for a while. Wouldn't say that him being a guy that breaks through in terms of the top of the game. But is Mezcal, like, again, a major, we're just talking it out. Like, what's the box office draw for a guy like Mezcal? Jeremy Allen White is a guy that could continue to rise up those ranks as well, too. Because, again, like, Michael B. can open a movie at this point. If Michael B. and Coogler are teamed up on a movie, I think it's easily 200 mil, just baseline, and then could be way, way more, depending on what it is. But, obviously, like, we're the DiCaprio and all these other guys. Ethan Hawke nominated. Hey, yo, Chalamet got Clooney, DiCaprio, Ethan Hawke, and Lee Young-hun, if I'm saying that right, and then Jesse Plemons in Begonia. I mean, chat, I'm just going to sit here and process that for a second. That is that like Shea winning a finals against, is it like, he took down Jokic? Who did he beat in the playoffs? Hey, yo. I know, Clooney, shout out. Jay Kelly, is that a little bit? I think that might be some industry love there. I haven't seen that, but I wouldn't say the word of mouth on that was like insane. But, I honestly haven't seen any movie in the musical or comedy category, to be honest. The only movie that, like we said, we've seen here is Sinners. It is what it is. But Ethan Hawke, still at the peak of his powers. I mean, Black Phone is maybe going to be one of his, top roles over the course of his career. Plemons in Begonia, people were saying was going to win the Oscar before that movie came out. Obviously, DiCaprio is great as well, too. Hot take there. And then, we might not be familiar with No Other Choice, but, I mean, I'm sure you got to give credit where credit is due. But, again, for our knowledge, for Chalamet to get those three guys at this point in their career, that's not nothing, chat. Hey, yo, that might be, is this the moment where now we're finally sold on Chalamet? It is what it is. The other problem is, like we've said before, we're pro Austin Butler on this pod if we have to take a Dune 2 stance. So can we have stock from everybody in Dune 2? I guess we got stock from everybody in his and hers now. So it is what it is. Being a PTA, and I mean, it is what it is. Shout out PTA. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say PTA is a bad director, but is that movie more perfectly crafted than Sinners? I don't know if there's another movie that's better than Sinners, but you can have your ranking, I guess, however you want it. It is what it is. So yeah, who is, or like I guess Chalamet again. It's not like the rising star, but I think like Plemons this year. I think Begonia did put Plemons on a different level where I don't, again, is Plemons gonna open a movie, but Civil War as well too. He's in that. Like Plemons is a guy that could have like a major box office run as well too. The Ed Sheeran of acting. We need to keep an eye on Plemons as well. What's the biggest movie? Pause. That Jeffrey Plemons. That Jesse. Hey yo. That what are we? Stephen A. Smith over here. That Jesse Plemons has opened. I guess I'm not gonna have the box office memorized for all these, or the ones that he's opened. Pause. As well too. Oh, he's also in this Tom Cruise movie as well. That's gonna be, because people are wanting Tom Cruise to win the Oscar for this, but that's tough. If you're gonna be acting across from Jesse Plemons, you get exposed, Chad, if Jesse Plemons is on screen. It is what it is. But yeah, we'll keep an eye. Shout out Tessa Thompson. Shout out Bernthal. Like we said, his and hers is amazing. So I guess we'll be back Friday. Whatever we didn't talk about here, we'll make up for on Friday. But we've got ASAP Rocky, Chad. It's time. Ayo. ASAP Rocky's dropping an album. It will be this Thursday night, I guess, this Friday. We will be here Friday night to react to it. We cannot wait for that. After all these years, the music is finally here, and we will be live listening to the first songs, to the songs for the first time here on the pod Friday night. I'm gonna do my best to not listen to the album. We'll listen to something else at the gym, I guess. We'll not have an AirPod in at work. It is what it is. But Friday night, we'll be here listening to the A$AP Rocky for the first time album in like 20 years since A$AP Rocky's dropped an album. It's been a while, so we're looking forward to that. But yeah, more NBA. You know, we'll have the NFL playoffs right around the corner, getting closer to the college football national championships. So hey, yo, fun times all the way around on the Rim and Sam pod. We thank you guys for jumping on with us tonight. Go enjoy the next couple of days, and we'll see you all, like we said, Friday night. Same bad time, same bad channel. We'll see y'all later. Peace.